Welcome to another episode of XenoChat. I am one of the hosts, Tyler, along with Justin.
What's up, everyone?
Alright, we got a few guests with us today to celebrate the 2-year anniversary of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. First up, we have Anthony. I have no idea what you said. But
it cut off, yeah.
I shouted, I bought a house.
Oh, yay! Oh. Alright, and we have, the other voice you heard right there was Nick.
Just a toiling away in the cosplay gallows.
Alright, and we have B.
I got nothing special to add.
You're here. That's what's special.
Yay.
I'm going to tear your opinions down this episode. I'm kidding.
Oh.
You said it was nothing special, so that's just like, I've already got fuel.
Fine. You're on.
Anyway.
Go on, Tyler.
We're here to kind of reflect back on Xenoblade 3 over the past 2 years, so that includes the base game and Future Redeemed. But first, before we get into that, we're going to have a quick figure corner, I guess, to talk about some of the latest merch in the Xeno games. Take it away, Justin.
Yeah, so I know we just got informed that the Bart figure got delayed recently.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know when that was delayed too? I know somebody mentioned it.
Just September, I believe.
September? Okay.
Yeah, which isn't too bad of a delay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't remember it was coming out in August, so that's good.
I forgot.
I forgot that figure was even coming, to be honest. But there's a lot of stuff coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I've had so many orders lately, and
With that particular line of figures, the reason I remember it better is because it had an extra set of arms that were just always in folded mode, and I'm like, wow, these look so much better without the joints.
Yeah, I think I'm probably gonna go with those arms, to be honest.
I just wish I liked that figure line better, I guess. I honestly no, you know what? I don't even wish that. I just wish it were better looking and less expensive, because for what it is, I just do not feel like they put out the kind of work that qualifies that kind of justifies that price, rather. Do better,
I
Square
agree.
Enix.
I agree with that. It's like the quality is maybe about on par with the Figma, maybe even a little less.
It's about Figma price. I think it's less.
I kind of like them better than Figmas, to be honest. I feel like they're easy.
I think the robots are better.
The robots are really good. Like the Veltal and the Veltal Id, both of those look really good.
The robots are awesome.
Those are nice.
Their people are they're kind of rough. Like, I think the Bart does look like a step up, but like that. And I mean, this is definitely just my opinion. So if anybody likes those, but like. Especially, like, I remember those near ones, and the hair on those looked like something that came out of, like, a $5 Ninja Turtles set or something. I don't know. Like, it was... Actually, that's not even fair, because Ninja Turtles don't have hair, but, the things that did. But it looked cheap. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think they could do better.
And you don't have to buy Xeno merch from Square, because there's plenty of Xenoblade 3 merch out there. If you go on Ami, you can still pre-order Mio. You can also get the little, like... Yeah, the Mio figures.
She's still pre-order? Oh, I thought she would have been closed.
No, not on Ami right now, as of this recording.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
You can get her for $102.65 USD. They also have the Xenoblade Chronicles 1, the Minato keychain. They also have the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Hidden Sword keychain. There's a bunch of acrylic standees, so if you want to get Rack, Shulk, A, M, Mio, Glimmer, Noah, Nickel, Niall, Matthew, and Senna, Ethel, Fiona, Ino, Kamaravi, Lands, who else? There's a whole bunch. Seguri, Tyon, and Riku, and Manana, or Manana, however the fuck you say her name. You can get those.
Manana.
You can get those Manana. It is Manana, because you can get all those on Ami, and there's also some pre-owned figures that might be interesting. I'm going to highlight this one because I think this is a good opportunity for somebody to snag this figure. So there is a Mithra that is up on Ami right now that is pre-owned, but it is damaged, and according to the description, it says, string of the gold decoration on the right side of the waist is detached. I feel like that's an easy fix.
Like, I was that earlier, and I'm not gonna lie, I was very tempted, but because I do want those figures, it's just I bought a house. I can't afford that right now.
But the price is really, really good for this. It is $117.92. Yes, she's technically broken, but I feel like that is a pretty easy thing to fix.
She's
I hope somebody can grab that.
She's a fixer-upper.
Was that a $200 figure, roughly, originally? I'm thinking it was.
I want to say yeah.
Yeah.
That's around what Cosmos was.
I could see it.
Resignation.
So there's
it's almost like...
Go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, that almost reminds me of like the... That almost reminds me of like that Momohime figure that I bought, the altar one that was like secondhand, and I was like, I can't even tell there's anything wrong with it. Why is it so cheap? And I get home and realize, one of the ribbons was like broken off. I just didn't even notice. So like maybe it's even one of those kind of things a little bit. It's hard to say.
Yep. There is a Pyra figure that's up pre-owned. That's actually a pretty good price too. This one is not damaged, and this one is $140.20. So $140. You can get her on AmiAmi.
That's actually pretty good, yeah.
That is a very good price. And there's another one. There's 2 Pyras up that is a little bit more expensive because I think it's in slightly better condition. That one is at $149.29. So still pretty good price for those Pyras. Definitely jump on that. I hope someone listening can get them because those are really, really good prices for that. They can get Cosmos. Cosmos is on there. She's a little bit more expensive at $214.91. I'm using the US dollars just once again. And there's the one that I was thinking about ordering, which is the Nia. She's finally back up. And she's at $171.38, which a little bit more expensive, but I don't see Nia go up very often, so
that's very true.
Do it, Justin.
Yeah.
Do it, Justin.
And I just bought something from Ami. Ami the other day had a grail of mine that I don't see often. And I spent like over $100 on that. And because that figure usually goes for over $200. So yeah, I'm like, I just bought this figure and now I found it. I'm like, damn it. And then I'm going to be going away to a Takuthon in a few days too. So I'm like, worst timing. Worst timing for this. But yeah. If I don't get her, I hope someone else gets her. Because that's a good price.
Please.
I mean, I'm sure someone will.
Please give Nia a good
eventually going to get her.
And beyond just figures, of course, I want to shout out some stuff real quick. Torna, the Golden Country, that is available on Video Games Plus. Definitely check them out. They are a really, really great site. They ship super fast. No, we are not sponsored. This is me talking from just my own personal experience.
Please sponsor us, though, please.
I would, Video Games Plus, if you give us, if we can arrange a deal where we can promo you, I will shill for you, because y'all are great.
Yeah, they really are.
But you'd be even better if you listened to this podcast. So,
Yeah, but as I said, not sponsored. This is just me talking from, me just ordering games. Video Games Plus, buy from them, bro. You want imports? They got you covered. They got a lot. They even got the weird Funbox Media imports. I'm not gonna talk about what those are. That's a little inappropriate. But they got those games. A lot of the imports are there. In some ways, it's better to buy from them than to get from Play Asia because they'll ship faster. So yeah, they're really cool. Definitely check them out. Also on Amazon, there's a few stuff on there. You can still get the Noah and Mio amiibos. The Xenoblade 2 All-Res art book is on Amazon for $35. So you can also get the Siren kit on Amazon at $159.99. And I'm noticing some retailers are getting the Pyra controller back in stock. And but it's usually really expensive. Like Amazon has it right now for $99. But I know some other retailers recently got some in stock, and it was also at a similar price point. So it's weird. They're starting to come back, but I don't know. They're still really expensive.
It's a really good controller.
It is a great controller. It is the controller that I use on my Switch.
Same.
So Yeah,
and it's wait. How long have you had it again? Because that's
I bought it at launch.
Same?
In fact, when I go on my Amazon account, you know when I purchased it? I purchased it on October 1st, 2017.
Nice.
Nice. Let's see. View order. Does it say how much I paid for it? Okay. I had the price that I paid for it on back then. I paid $74.99 for that controller. So expensive.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's interesting. So I actually bought another game with it when I made that order. I bought Radiant Historia Perfect Chronology with that order.
Hell yeah, good choice.
That's interesting. That's a good game.
Snapshot.
Really good
choice.
Anyways, I have rambled on enough about Xeno merch. There's plenty of it out there. Definitely go grab some of that stuff. Support the franchise. Want more merch?
Sing your song, Justin.
Oh, and real quick, I just wanted to throw this out there. It's Xeno adjacent. Good Smile just announced a couple additional pop-up parades for Fire Emblem Three Houses. The characters I saw, I think, were male and female Byleth, as well as Dorothea, and I forget the other two. Hilda was one of them, and then there was one of the guys. Oh, Sylvain. Yep, and that was all I had.
Actually, that's a really good choice.
Yeah, all three of those are great fucking choices. I
was like, wow, did not expect the Sylvain one to be thrown in there at the end.
Yeah,
huh.
I'm excited. I want literally all of those. It's both, and for the Byleths, it's both male and female. I don't know if I mentioned that.
I'm not sure if I was clear on that, but
that's cool that they gave you that choice.
Yee. All right, well, that's what I had to mention. Let's jump into the episode.
There is no choice, only both.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, so let's see, is it July 29th? Is that July 29th? Oh god, I'm terrible. Because I'm going to have the...
What about it?
Yep, July 29th was the worldwide release of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and I should have this episode up by then. So, yeah, this... it's...
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it's been a minute, but at the same time, it doesn't feel that long at all.
Yeah?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We've been talking about it off and on. I guess... don't want to say quoting Wikipedia, but it says the game had sold like 1.86 million copies by March 2023. So it's been very successful, or at least I guess for Xeno. I know in comparison to other Nintendo games, that's not really a lot to sneeze at. But
I think is that more or less than Blade 2? I think that's a little less. I haven't checked Blade 2 sales figures in a minute.
Blade 2 picked up a lot whenever the Smash Brothers stuff hit. So I think it's less. Okay. Maybe not less in the same time span, but like overall, I'm pretty sure it's still less.
Right.
Like lifetime sales so far. We'll see. We'll see how things go from there, though.
Exactly. But yeah. So yeah, on the 2-year anniversary, we're just gonna kind of reflect back, talk about, I guess, stuff we look back on fondly and stuff that we might not look back on so fondly. So I kind of want to start with, I kind of want to start with you, Anthony, because I know it took... No, I'm not poking fun of you for taking so long, but I also... you're kind of the most...
I will fully acknowledge, dude. It took me way too long to finish that game but life and my interests had just kind of really fucking just gone all over the place.
No, I gotcha. But I mostly want to pick on you because you've kind of, I guess, played it more recently and maybe more have a different perspective than us, but at the same time I know others might be a little bit different.
It probably would be about the freshest for Anthony out of this group, most likely.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think so.
So what do you want me to tell you? Do you want me to tell you my overall impressions of the game, like what I think? Because
I mean, I think that's up to you, which part you want to talk about.
So I'll give you my overview of my thoughts.
All right.
this is, out of the game, all of the games, 2 years later, this is the one that's kind of stuck with me the most. It's the one I go back and find myself thinking about the most. Not in a bad way. Not necessarily in a good way. It's just like it's one of those things where the themes of this game kind of really hit home for me, and I go back to like thinking about it, and there's a lot about this game that truthfully I just to date still don't fully understand. So I think that's one of the reasons why my mind kind of goes back to it as often as it does, is because I'm still kind of like having like, wait a minute moments. Because and there's so much about this game that I liked. And then there's not stuff that I would say that I like really strongly disliked, but there's stuff that I wish they had done better. The things I really liked were the very dark overtones of the game. I really appreciated that. I liked the cast. I think that as far as like the main cast goes for both DLC and for main game, I think Xenoblade Chronicles 3 had the strongest of the three casts. Each character felt very strong. Like, none of them felt like they were just kind of brushed to the side. Which is more than what I could say for some of the characters in Xenoblade Chronicles 1 or 2. I really liked the characters. I liked the lighthearted moments, but the heavier moments definitely like hit hard. Overall, I think 2 is still probably my favorite from a gameplay and from a story perspective. That said, this one really did like kind of like not get to me, but I don't know what the word is, but like I go back and I think about this one a lot, and this is coming from somebody who really just kind of did the main game and some of the side quests. Like I never recruited like maybe a third of the heroes or the side quests.
You still haven't recruited Triton, have you?
No, I don't even know what he looks like.
You have after this episode, or when you get the free time,
when you get a chance.
Yes,
when I
would like it.
Go back
you would love him.
When I go back to it, that's going to be what I do.
You would love him.
I think I do want to. Oh, go ahead.
But another thing I want to say I loved the DLC, and I would say that if the DLC was a movie, I would have loved every fucking second of it. I can't stress to you how much I enjoyed the DLC for 3. Story perspective. Gameplay, I wanted to hit my head against a brick wall because unlike the main game, I can't really brute force my way through the DLC. I have to go and do side quests. I have to go and explore. And there are times, there are some games where I like doing that, and then there are games where I want to consume the story as fast as possible, because, quite frankly, I don't give a shit about the stuff on the side. The main story is so interesting to me, I want the next chapter as soon as possible. And unfortunately, the DLC is not one of those games where it kind of lets you do that. You have to go and do side stuff. And if you don't, you're going to hit brick walls and you're going to bash your head against that wall. And the amount of time you sink trying to brute force your way through it, you could just go and do the other stuff and it'll honestly be faster. So that's what I ended up doing. I hit a brick wall towards the end and I had to go and grind and do side stuff, and then I did it, and then I went and I beat the DLC, and I got rewarded with, like, them going to, I'm going to assume it's Earth, and I just God, like I know this is probably like not a universal take. I'm not gonna say it's a hot take, but I definitely know it's going to be like a controversial take. I love what Takahashi is doing. I love what he is doing because it keeps me on my toes. It keeps me guessing. It keeps me wanting more. It genuinely keeps me wanting more. It keeps me invested in the story, and I keep wanting to get the next chapter. I have played all 3 Xenoblade games back to back, essentially, for the first time, and I can't get to them fast enough. Like I really and 3 was just an awesome. I don't even want to call it a conclusion. I want to call it like 3 is just another chapter in this grand scheme that he's building, and I don't know. Call me an apologist, but I'm buying into his shit, and I like it. I'm not saying it's perfect. It's definitely got, it's oversights, it's problems, it's holes or whatever. It's not perfect, but fuck me, do I love it. Like, I can't get enough of it. I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't play like a whole lot of like stuff quite like this. It's very novel to me, and I enjoy it a lot. I really want to go and play Xenosaga now, because it seems to me like that's kind of where this full circle is closing back to, or at least if I'm understanding things correctly. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see what he does next, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, or if it's a blissfully optimistic thing because I haven't been abused by him enough yet. But Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was a fantastic next step in what he is building, and I am really excited to see where he goes from here. I have more positive things to say about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 than I do negative things. But would I say that it's my favorite game in the series? No. I definitely feel like I like the gameplay a lot more than I liked the first one, but Torna, the Golden Country, was just this magical sweet spot where you could swap between the blades, but it took the already phenomenal gameplay of 2 and really built upon it. And I think that was peak. And it's going to be very, very hard for him to top that. I do think that in Xenoblade Chronicles 3, gameplay speaking, some of the enemies were a little too tanky. They take too long to take down. And if you get TPK'd by one of them and you have to start that fight all over again, it's annoying. Especially in a period of time in my life where I want games to respect my time more. I want to spend less time grinding and more time enjoying the story without dropping the easy mode. And so if I had to offer any point of criticism, it would be purely on the gameplay. I just truly did love the story. So
criticism my ego for not dropping to easy mode. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
It's part. I don't know.
I understand. I definitely get it.
No, but you're right. You're 100% right. It's entirely my ego that prevents me from dropping to easy mode. But it's just, I don't know. I don't want to admit that, like, I just...
I'm going to be real with you anyway on that, Ant. I don't think dropping to easy mode is going to solve necessarily... Like, it will definitely help, but I don't think it fully solves the problem in the game, because there is a fundamental design difference in the way you are meant to actually level up rather than the grindy way in this game, and how Torna and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 does it, where things are still there was a lot of leveling up of abilities in 2 that were based on essentially an achievement, something that was oh, normally you would do this for an achievement, and this kind of worked out in its favor because a lot of them were easy to attain just as you fought. As is. There were things that you were already sort of doing, or some of them weren't, but if you fought the certain enemy, you could, and you had so many blades that you could pick and choose a lot more. This game switched the focus, especially in the DLC. The focus heavily switched to exploration. And I think that is... I really liked that personally, but that's also one of those things that is like a little bit of like too much of a good thing, I would call it in some ways, because if you're just enjoying the story that much more like you were, it's just going to get in the way of you getting to more of that story, because it does take time to explore. Like,
exactly. It's the same gripe I had with what are they called? In Xenoblade Chronicles 2, there were these field things that you had to do where you had to have field skills. That was it.
Oh.
In order to progress the story, you had to have there's this one moment in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 that I distinctly remember where I was just over.
Was it Morordain?
It was on Morordain.
And was it like that super
door? There's this fucking door you have to have I think a fire blade at a certain level, and I'm just like, why? In what world is this actually enhancing my gameplay experience? How does this benefit me to go and level up a common blade that I'm never gonna fucking use again? I know what you're gonna say, Justin. I know they can be good, but my point is they're just not interesting. To me, the common blades just weren't interesting. But my point is, why do I have to go and level up a common blade to get the certain skill that is going to open this door for me, and then I'm never going to use that blade again? What is this doing for me? It's not really doing anything for me other than, padding the game, an already very long game, out to unnecessarily. And it was totally unnecessary. So when they got rid of field skills in 3, I was like, oh, this is going to be a 10 out of 10 experience. But not so. I mean, I feel like they hid a lot of the content too much in side stuff in 3, and I feel like the villains in 3 are the weakest in the franchise. Mobius is a fucking awesome concept. I love Mobius as a concept, but when you break it down, as far as memorable villains go, I could think of Zed, whom I still don't fully understand, by the way. N was cool, M was cool.
I think as long as you understood N and M a little bit, that helps. It
helps a little bit, but also the two of them confuse me even more, because no one else is in the Eternal Now. It's just the two of them. But why are they in the Eternal Now, but also getting, why are they also part of the cycle? They never really explain why there's both, N and M, but also Noah and Mio. And that never truly made sense to me. And it's to date still doesn't. I think it's cool, but I would love to understand the why. But also the idea of the Eternal Now, the what Mobius stands for. I like that. I like that a lot, because it's extremely fucking relatable to introduce this concept of essentially immortality, and you stop aging because you're hurting and you're tired of losing something. I can't blame N for his decisions. I put myself in his shoes and said, I probably would have broken 5 or 6 cycles sooner than he did. It's a very interesting concept that Takahashi introduces, and it's really, really cool what he does with it. It's just a little confusing as to how he does it.
Would you forsake all your descendants if you and your wife could live forever?
Kind of. Look, I'm not already planning. I myself am not planning on having kids. So the idea of me and Betsy living forever isn't the hell on earth that I feel like it would be. But that game kind of shows how it becomes a hell on earth, and how it is having to do Zed's bidding. And Zed as a villain, they explain what he is very briefly at the end of the game, but fuck me if I understand it. I genuinely couldn't tell you like how he comes into like I think he was like an AI that was like supposed to run Origin or something like that, which Origin is another thing, a whole other behemoth that I don't fully fucking understand.
I don't think anyone completely if somebody tells you they understand Origin completely, I'm gonna be like doubt, because I don't think that they fully wrote Origin. To be honest.
Magic.
And that's
no, it's not even about how it works, B. It's about how it makes the decisions it does that is more up to question.
Justin put it best. He hides things that are blatantly obvious and then doesn't explain things that really need explanations. And if he flip-flopped that shit, it would be a 10 out of 10 experience every time. But I also...
I'm not sure about that. I think that's how it keeps us on the hook a little bit, personally.
Well, like, yes and no. Because
he could definitely do more, don't get me wrong, but I think there is an aspect of that is like,
And I agree with you. It's just, like, the thing is that, like, we're never going to see any... Like if... I feel like we're never going to get an explanation for half of the questions that we have, because a lot of the times when he leaves things open like this, he doesn't go back and explain it.
We have felt that way before, and then he's just casually lore dropped the entire thing in like a DLC. Like he just fucking did. Like yes and no. I agree with you. There is a very good chance that will not happen, but then there was like that last DLC where they're just like go into explaining. Oh, and
by the way,
stuff about
Xenosaga's back, baby.
Well, just like the stuff about Ontos that dropped just naturally in a conversation, in the DLC, that I was like, yeah, people have been speculating on this for the last how many years? Like, insane since Xenoblade 2 came out.
The thing that gets
that's part of why it's fun, though. I mean,
this is a slight grievance I have with people. Not like it's not a grievance with people; it's a grievance with people's opinion. Is like people have been speculating this sort of thing for years, right? But then when it turns out that they're right, like instead of having that reaction of "Oh yeah, I was right," it's "Why the fuck is he doing this?" And they get angry at the fact that they were right. Like, to me, if I was predicting something like that, and then I found out that, like, I was right about the prediction, I'd be like, yeah!
You mean Takahashi is a human and not some story-writing god? How fucking dare he?
Really? Like we just find out that he's just Japanese George R.R. Martin, like hammering away. Like he's just got like this big beard, like Santa Claus look, and he's just hammering away on a DOS typing machine.
I honestly, Anthony, I say that as a joke, but I do think in a lot of ways that people put Takahashi up on like some kind of pedestal.
A little bit.
Because of the way he's written, that leads them to think that everything is going to be greater than what they come to the conclusion of in theory. And then whenever they're right about it, they get upset that it's not, that's the case sometimes.
It's not like something that completely blew the... See, the fucking thing about Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is, and I'm sure that many of you listening and in here in this chat with me, when you got to the beginning of chapter 10, and you saw that, like, 2 is in fact connected to 1. Like, to me, at least, I didn't see that coming at all. And I
think a lot of us didn't.
It's recorded on my channel in a VOD somewhere. I fucking lost it. I was so excited.
Well, I was the one, I think I told you guys, I was playing the reverse. So I played 2 first, then 1. And when I got to that part in 1 where they had that same with the conduit, I was like losing my shit. And I'm like, oh my god, it's the same. It's the same.
Yeah, they play it in a way where everything like that about that happens late enough in each game that it kind of, you can play one or the other in like either order and it still becomes like a little bit of a revelation for you.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I was losing my shit.
It was
it's good story structure.
And when he did the DLC in Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and we're like in the fucking neighborhood on Earth, I have seen and experienced very little Xenosaga. But when I was walking through that neighborhood, I was like, gee, why does this feel so much like the opening cutscene to Xenosaga? Like, I feel like we're in that time period. And like, that's not just me desperate to like make connections, but I feel like it was pretty deliberate. And then I'm listening to the radio broadcast and I'm like, this all seems very specific. Like I wasn't even listening to what the characters were talking about. I was just focused entirely on the radio broadcast because I didn't give a fuck what they were saying. I was like, where are we? What is this? Tell me more.
It is worth listening to what they say in that scene, but I will say,
I gotta go back and rewatch it.
I've heard a lot of opinions about that scene, and a lot of people think it. I feel like at a certain point, some people thought it was like, that was kind of like, it was a little hack for them to do that there and this and that. But at the same time, I'm like, that's one of the best gotcha moments I think I've seen in the entire series. Like, whenever you just come up and you appear in that neighborhood and you slowly like realize that's Klaus's world, just in general, like even divorced of the Xenosaga speculation, just that as a sequence where it's just like, oh shit, what is going on? Like, it is one of the craziest moments for that. Like, least expected things ever I've seen in this series.
Not the first time we've been in that neighborhood either. I feel like the first time we were in that neighborhood was actually when we got to, what's the name of the tree called in Xenoblade Chronicles 2?
Oh, you mean the
tree?
You mean
the top? Elysium. Elysium. That was it. When we go to Elysium for the first time, I feel like
the world tree is.
Yeah, I feel like when we do all of that, I suddenly felt like we were in the ruins of like an old like neighborhood. Like, I feel like there's distinctly like a part where I was walking through and I was like, this low key kind of looks like a playground.
Yeah, there was like a playground.
Yeah, so like I feel like that wasn't like when we go there in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I don't feel like that wasn't the first time we've been there. I feel like we've been there before. Like, it felt familiar, oddly, like, and that's the mastery of what he has done. And I know I sound like I'm just hopping on his cock or whatever, but like bear with me for a second. Like, the mastery of what he has done is he is able to give me, at least, this player, a sense of, you have been here before, and not like, and make me curious about it. Make me like he's able to give me this feeling of nostalgia almost, and make me feel like give me a sense of familiarity without it being obvious. And I like that. I like that a lot. He's certainly one of the more creative like storytellers, designers, whatever, that we have in the industry right now, and he must be protected. I think he's a little bit like George Lucas. He needs somebody to occasionally tell him no. But let the man cook.
To be fair, he's gotten a little bit more of that since the Xenoblade stuff, at least. But, you know, there's still... And I agree with you. Like, I think one of the things that probably fascinates me the most about Takahashi is that he is incredibly good at subtlety until he's not. Until but part of me wonders.
I feel like he's an excited child who just blows his load too fast sometimes or something. Little bit.
That's a terrible way to put that, but you get
me. But also some like when on that point of until he isn't like there are times where he's needless, like it's almost like insulting to our intelligence when he has characters refer to other characters using exclusively pronouns and just refusing to commit to something, like Glimmer, for example, like I forget who Rex's assistant's name is, the chick who's very clearly Pandora's kid. Yeah, that's
Linka. Yeah.
She says, I know how you feel. She looks exactly like them. And I'm like, come on. She looks exactly like Pyra and Mithra. You could say Pyra and Mithra. We saw the fucking photograph. We know Rex has a harem. We know that he had 3 kids, each with one of his wives. So, like, you're being needlessly cryptic here. You've already given us the answer. Why are you doing this? And I feel like we've had this conversation on this.
Well, it's just a plain
podcast a million times, but that just drives home the point of how insulting and like frustrating it is when like he does all these other grandiose things, which makes me wonder, since Monolith Soft is a big company with big, with a large employee base. Part of me wonders if he's the one making all of these decisions, and like the bigger decisions go to him. Some of these more frustrating ones are being done by somebody else.
I think he definitely does like a lot of the outline of the story still. Like he is credited for a lot of that, and whenever you're playing the game, you can kind of feel it. I'm like, yeah, this feels very him. But like of course there are other people.
Yeah, there was.
Of course he has that.
Yeah, and there were 2 other writers that were listed in the credits for doing the script.
But yeah, just it's one of those things that I wonder about, is like how much of this is him, how much of this is his staff, how much of this, because it takes a lot of hands to make a video game, and
well, yeah, I mean,
the more moving parts, the more likely something is to go wrong. So, I'm not giving him an out or a total pass or anything. I'm just letting you guys know where my thoughts are on this. I think that it is possible that maybe, sometimes some of these smaller things that annoy us may not be necessarily him. Could be.
Oh, that's absolutely.
Could be, decisions being made by his staff that he's, briefly glancing at without looking too deep into, because there's a fucking deadline, and approving, and the game suffers as a whole for it. And speaking of the game as a whole, remember when this game was originally going to come out in November, and then they pushed it up to July? I am convinced Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was rushed. I will never not be convinced that this game was rushed. I think it did need more time in the oven. A little bit more polish. It was definitely in a state where it's worth its price tag and it's fine. But as opposed to being, I feel like there's more we could have gotten out of it. I think there's a little bit more, that they could have done if they were given that extra 3 months to just do a little bit more polish work on it.
I guess in a sense I agree, but I'm not sure. Like, it doesn't feel like an unpolished game to me. Really?
No. And please don't misunderstand.
Yeah, no, I get you.
It's polished. It's definitely polished. It's a good game. But I think that it needed just a little more. Like, it needed... I think it just needed a little bit more time to cook. Because I'm not going to say it's half-baked. It's not half-baked. It's like 8/10 baked.
Well, which are we talking? Are we talking about gameplay, or are we talking about like the story?
I'm thinking the whole thing.
Just the whole thing. Okay.
The whole thing, because there are things that feel very important to the story that I feel, came and went very quickly. That they kind of just glossed over it. That maybe if they had been given more time to do cutscene animation or something like that, ideas could have been fleshed out more. And with gameplay, maybe there are like little things that they could have done, maybe things that they could have added to streamline it even more than it already was. Maybe there's more we could have gotten. Gameplay, it's hard for me to say anything about, because the gameplay really was fluid and it felt really good. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I really liked the gameplay of 3. It was really strong. But
I don't care what they release next. That dodge button better be the fuck in it.
Oh, hell yeah. That dodge button.
That quick move button, like, that better be in there. Also, if you can like make more items or like make it just standard that the dodge can actually work for like the high chance of dodging without having to wear like an accessory to get it to do that, Yeah, do that, please.
That's actually, that goes into some of my critiques with the gameplay, because I actually have quite a bit to say there.
Or really, like, the one of the things about gameplay that drove me crazy was that only medic class could revive. That's probably my biggest critique of the gameplay, and I'm glad you brought that up. Or you said what you said that made me bring it up, because
I will also say I saw many of your critiques with the gameplay, Anthony, as someone who watched you play most of the game. I honestly don't know that streaming that game was the best way to get the best experience out of it, but at the same time, I am thankful to you for doing so, because there was a lot of things that it reminded me of, like it brought back to mind for me. So yeah, just go on, but yeah, like that was just my thought on that.
I don't think I'm going to be streaming any more lengthy RPGs.
Practice.
He's learned his lesson finally.
Yes.
You were putting a lot of pressure on yourself in that playthrough. To be fair,
I will fully admit it was a mistake, but also it wasn't a mistake. Like, there were good parts about it, there were bad parts about it, and the parts where I got to like share this experience with my friends who had been through it already, who wanted to hop in, was awesome. And I really loved interacting with my viewers and my friends while I was playing this game. It definitely was really nice.
I'm glad to hear that. I do not like to backseat people, but you were bringing out the backseater in me a little bit, for sure.
Yeah, it's and that's okay. I've watched you.
There were times that you were like grinding, and I'm like, Anthony, this would be so much faster if you found X item. It does not take that long.
Nick, you're the one who pulled my head out of my ass with the DLC at the very end there when I was stuck on N, and told me go back and go and explore, because this game is designed around progression. Doing that, and if you hadn't said that, I might not have finished the DLC, because I was getting pretty pissed off.
Yeah, I glanced I didn't watch that full stream, but I remember glancing at it, and like, you went into your menu for like a second, and I noticed that you're at the end of the game and you're still using all the like level 1 stuff, and I'm like,
I think he had one accessory slot unlocked or something.
I'm like,
it
whoa,
was because you really underpowered.
Just like, Anthony, gems, Anthony, you have gems. Apply the gems.
Again, like, it's really because like I want to play the game a certain way, and the game isn't letting me, and I'm not really fully like realizing that, because
why is this boss so hard? You walked into the fight in your underwear, Anthony. How do you
So as it turns out, I'm bad at these games too. So but anyway,
no, it's just,
I think I'm done streaming them because I'm beginning to kind of realize that after playing Octopath Traveler 2, not streaming it, that I enjoy games a lot more. I enjoy smelling the flowers and taking the long way around a lot more.
I think that's the best way with RPGs, really.
Yeah,
especially when I'm these games.
when I'm not like streaming. And I couldn't tell you why that is. I think it's because there's less pressure to be entertaining. There's less pressure to
move the story forward in general,
and to move the story forward and to clear it out to get to the next game. Like there's plenty of things, but this is our thoughts on Xenoblade Chronicles 3, not the diary of Anthony Luigi who.
No, I like this part.
This is what we're here for. This is what we're here for.
It gives a lot of insight in how to play.
Yeah. But okay, so then if you haven't, for some reason, you're listening to this and we're spoiling things left and right, and you haven't played Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 2, or 3 yet,
this is a spoiler cast.
Spoiler warning. 2, take your time with these games. Like, really, I can't stress this enough, and you're probably tired of hearing me talk at this point, but really just, like, take your time, do side stuff, explore, and just understand that every game is different than the last. That's one of those things that, like, I certainly didn't fully grasp on my playthroughs is that if you try to play 2 like 1 and 3 like 2, it's not going to work. Each game is inherently different, and that's a good thing. It keeps things fresh.
I think that's like really part of why it vibes with the Nintendo philosophy so much is that they don't make a sequel without completely rewriting the books a little bit. You know?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that completely.
And I do want to go back to one thing that you said earlier, like way earlier.
Go ahead.
About the cast. I was thinking about that when you mentioned it. Like you said, yeah, I think this is one of the most well-rounded casts like that we've seen in a while. That's a hard claim to make in some ways because I do think there was a lot going on with the casts and in all of them really, but like just in sheer like the number of cast members and the number of different ideas going around, like having that central cast of the 6, like it really does feel in a way like the way they approached it was they created 6 unique characters that all had like opinions that, you know, were enough in the same range, but just enough from each other on the point and how they thought about specific aspects of it to cover like different thematic elements in a way that was very well rounded. I do think in a lot of ways I agree with that, you know, like the way they approached the problem may have been the same in the end, but the way they thought about it, like you could tell from like how each of them felt very differently about it, like, and their approach to it was a little bit different, but just enough that they were like, they weren't on opposing sides.
Yeah.
Still,
right.
They were just kind of like,
yeah.
They looked at it. It was enough to get you thinking about like this from more aspects than just like, oh, well, we're just going to go along with what this guy does. Like, yeah, they definitely had a leader. They definitely had Noah as a leader, but the way that like Noah and Mio especially like looked at things, with the like reverence that they did compared to like someone who like Lance or Sana or like Tyon, especially like he's like a great example of somebody who I felt like looked at a lot of things very differently from the others. Like Noah was very sentimental. Tyon was very calculated and logical, but not like he wasn't like cold. He wasn't up first. Being cold, but
cold at first. But
he was at first, but it was
they
like
grow on him. He gets better.
It was clearly like a defense mechanism for him.
Yes,
though. Like after what you find out what he went through, you know, and like Lance, also great example of defense mechanisms at play, just like with his anger issues and just like dealing with what like the loss that he dealt with in all of this, and just constantly finding out that he's just always blaming himself. Like there was a lot of great like different ideas bouncing off of each other, and then you pair that up against like Noah and Mio, who are both like they look at this with more reverence, just both because they were kind of the ones that thought of like, hey, isn't it kind of like weird how we do this way in the first place, how things are like this, and they actually care about the people that they're, you know, like sending off a lot more, not necessarily as an honorable thing. They think it's like, yeah, this is actually pretty sad, and everybody just kind of treats it as honorable, so it doesn't matter, you know.
Noah was the only one with a brain in Chapter 1. The way he looked at Homecoming and how he looked at Sending, as opposed to the way that literally everyone else looked at it.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, okay, cool. He's onto this shit. Like,
well, I also feel like Mio had a little bit of that, but she was like too prideful to admit it a little bit at first, almost. Like, well, maybe not prideful, but like she was like, no, this is the way things should be or supposed to be, so I'm not going to be this way. And like he kind of turned her like, hey, maybe, you know, just a little like that.
Oh, what I find interesting about Noah and Mio is that like it kind of makes sense for them to both be that way, because they're the only two characters that kind of have a different relationship with death than everybody else.
They're the ones who are forced to deal with it.
They're the ones that are forced to deal with it all the time.
Yeah.
And so their relationship with death is very different than everybody else as off-seers. And I think that makes sense that Noah is going to have kind of a different outlook on life than the other folks. So him being the first one to really start to question things is it makes sense. It's very in character for him, and I really like how it's done. I think like if I had to the Xenoblade 3 cast, like if I had to describe them, as they definitely feel more down to earth in that their qualities aren't as greatly exaggerated as certain characters in the past.
Yeah,
especially if you compare them to like Xenoblade 2's cast, and that's not a diss on Xenoblade 2's cast, by the way.
No, I think that's great in Xenoblade 2's cast, but I do think that there are some people that actually miss the subtlety of the 3 characters because of this.
Well,
a little bit.
I think, I mean, one thing I kind of like is that, of course, there are like characters in previous games, like individuals that I think I like more than the cast of Xenoblade 3, but as like a cohesive group that kind of like play off each other, I think that's one thing I like more about Xenoblade 3's cast. There's a lot of cohesion between everyone.
Yeah.
I
think the chemistry is like off.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, chemistry.
Tyler, I think what you just said is what I was trying to say when I say that this cat was the strongest cast.
Okay.
There are characters in both 1 and 2 that I like way more than characters than some of the party members in 3. Like, I still think, to date, and I said this a lot at the beginning, and then people kept saying, keep playing. My opinion has not changed on this. I think that Noah is the most boring of the 3 main characters of 1, 2, and 3. Rex is my boy. He's always going to be my boy. I love Rex. I stan Rex, and seeing him all grown up and fucking Future Redeemed literally made me fucking giddier than a schoolgirl. Okay, I was so excited to see him all grown up, and I like to date. I still think that he's one of my favorite protagonists, like in any video game. And Shulk was a breath of fresh air for me, because usually the techie, nerdy, like engineering character isn't the main character, and
he's
yet
the first to go.
What?
He's the first to go.
Yeah, usually they're the first to go. You're not wrong.
Ryan is a standout for not bullying Shulk.
But yeah, Ryan really is the stand-up for not. Ryan feels like Ryan's archetype feels like the type that would be the main character, and Shulk would be the supporting character, little bit. But I really liked the fact that Shulk was the main character of 1, and that he was kind of a nerd. Like, he's just a fucking geek and a dork, and he's lovable for that reason. And Rex is kind of the same way. Noah is, understandably, very, very different tonally than the first 2. He's much more muted. He's much more reserved. He's more stoic.
Shulk is very reserved too, but I don't know. Like, for me personally, I think I like Noah a little bit more than Shulk, because he feels like the more mature take, like the more mature introspective take on Shulk to me. If that makes sense.
Then that's totally fine. I disagree, but
I think that's cool. I mean, that's just my
But
like, Shulk feels like he doesn't know what the fuck to do with these thoughts. Noah feels like he has a little bit better understanding of them inherently, if that makes sense.
Well, he's also in a war zone, so wars tend to make
so is Shulk!
Fine. My point is invalid. Carry on.
That being said, I think it ultimately comes down to personal preference, because everything you guys have said makes complete sense for each of these characters.
I'm not saying that any of them are out of character. I'm just saying this is personal preference.
It's 100%.
Because at the end of the day, because everything you guys are saying, I'm
very well written.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Those are all qualities that make sense for the characters, and from what I remember, at least, they're all executed pretty well.
Yeah. No, character writing is definitely a strong suit in the series, usually.
Very much so.
Unless you're very few particular blades or something like that.
What about your opinion on Matthew?
Oh, fuck me. I love Matthew. Matthew was kind of Matthew was I
thought you were going to be fuck
kidding. I don't know how to... it's weird. It's weird that you bring up Matthew, because, this is kind of a dumbass take, but I should think of the DLC for 1, 2, and 3 as their own separate games, but I always kind of forget that they're their own separate games when they really kind of are. So if I were to take the protagonists for like all 6 games, I would say that Melia is definitely the protagonist of Future Redeemed. And I like how they really revisited her character and how she's grown, but it's Melia. It's still very much Melia.
I mean, Future Connected?
Yes, that's what I meant.
Okay.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Future Connected, Melia is still very much Melia. And we love Melia, but there's really not that much that's new there. So it was really cool to see her step into like a lead role, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that was the through point there, was her like coming into her own finally and like really like going, like there was definitely signs of her getting there in Xenoblade Chronicles 1, but it didn't feel like we got the full story of her like growing through her issues and like coming to be the person that she would, like that was like the in between to her like going through her arc where she becomes like the queen like figure that she would become in a lot of ways.
Yes, 100%. Adam, I hate to say this, but I feel like Adam was kind of forgettable. And that's not forgettable because for any reason other than the fact that he just kind of felt like a grown-up Rex. But
I had a brain fart and I was like, who are you talking about? But now I'm like, oh.
See, that's my point, exactly!
It's like, well, mostly because I see like Laura or Jen as more the protagonist than I see him, but I get you.
I also had a brain fart, but I realized it played.
So I
knew exactly who you guys were talking about as soon as you said it, but I think the thing with Adam, I think Adam's a very interesting character I'm going to tell you why
Adam is Mitsuda's dad.
We're gonna go on a weird little tangent, but I'm going to tell you why I think Adam works and why I think he's actually really cool.
Okay.
I think I probably agree with you.
So what I like about Adam, and I'm going to talk about where Adam falls short. I'm going to do both. What makes Adam cool to me is you play through all of Xenoblade 2, and you're hearing all these stories about Adam, and you're hearing all these different perspectives on Adam, who he was, the kind of people he talked to, what he did. And then Torna comes out, and you finally get to see Adam and realize that he is kind of not, he's like kind of not like anything people said about him. He's like just this goofball, right? He's really strong and everything. And yeah, he's a good person, but like, he's just who he is, right? And yet he's still the kind of person who did all this cool stuff. So I think it makes you second guess like what everybody's saying in the past and what kind of stories get told about this man. Mm-hmm. And especially at the end of Torna, when, all that shit goes down and he kind of sets off with Mithra, it kind of just leaves you guessing what the fuck happened with Adam that led to all the stories that people told about him since Torna. And I think that's pretty neat.
I agree.
Agree with you. Where Adam falls short.
Definitely agree with you there. That's a great perspective.
Where Adam falls short is that, unfortunately, that's pretty much all he has going for himself. Unlike, pretty much every other protagonist in the series, he doesn't really get to have much of an arc.
I think he just doesn't get enough screen time. He doesn't get enough screen time.
Torna
stuff.
Is too short to really do much with
That's
him.
why I kind of didn't see him as a protagonist so much, as since we got a lot more with Laura.
Yeah. Well, he's not.
I think most people consider Jin and Laura to be the protags of that.
Which is wild because Adam is like more of a standout than Jin and a lot reserved as he is. Right. But not to say Jin is bad. Jin is an amazing character, but I'm just saying, he is very stoic and reserved in a lot of ways compared to Adam.
Right.
Yeah, Adam makes sense. Adam serves to kind of just, throw a wrench into all the stories that you've heard throughout Xenoblade 2 and have you saying, wait, hold on, is this the guy they've been talking about?
The added layer of funny to that is how much Zeke, kind of idolizes Adam in Xenoblade 2, and is kind of striving towards his goal to being like this Adam guy would probably think Zeke was a joke, and then you meet Adam and they're like, never mind. They're like very similar in a lot of ways, actually.
Yeah.
So that being said, I just said that out loud, we kind of get like a similar effect with Xenoblade 3 and Future Redeemed, right? So you go into the city and then you're reading about the founders, and then finally we get a game where we get to see the founders. And I think the cast of Future Redeemed is kind of like what they were trying to do with Adam, but I think they did a little bit better of a job with it there. Because
way better.
We get to see more of the character. You get to see more of those characters. They have more screen time. I think they did a great job balancing the cast in Future Redeemed. So, and in general, I think Blade 3 does such an amazing job with balancing its cast because one, you have most of them from the get-go. So you don't get that type of progression that you get in a lot of games where you're going to a new place and then getting a new character.
Hey, new person.
So you don't really get that, which is pretty nice. But yeah. So I like that with Xenoblade 3. And also just I think Blade 3 out of all the Xenoblade games really gives you that sense that these characters are growing with each other and gradually opening up to each other. Even through smaller things, like when you get to the campfires and you're just seeing them just doing stuff. Like you get to see Mio and Senna combing each other's hair. You get to see Senna and Lance doing push-ups. You get to see Tyon and Uni having tea together. It's little moments like that to me really helped show the relationships blossoming between those characters. And that went a long way in making these characters feel real and just a lot more grounded than, say, Xenoblade 2's cast, which is very, very out there and in your face, like really exaggerated. And that's not a bad thing. It's just a different way of telling that story.
It's too anime.
It's not even that. It's just, you know, their qualities are a lot more exaggerated in 2. And in one kind of tried to do the Xenoblade 3 thing, but I think 1 didn't quite get there because unfortunately a lot of the smaller moments of 1 are relegated to either the heart-to-hearts or some of the main story cutscenes. Whereas in 3, you get those moments throughout the entire game. You don't have to go out of your way to find them. They're just going to happen. And I think that works in Blade 3's favor.
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely things in 3 that are missable that probably shouldn't be, but yeah, they do a better job.
Yeah.
For sure.
But I mean, I'm talking solely just like the relationship between party members.
Yes, absolutely true. Like, it's not like you have to dig for the reason that this character feels this way about this all the time, because it's like if it's story relevant, it's actually in the main story this time.
Exactly. And so when characters feel certain ways towards each other, you never have to question it. You get it. Like, I don't think anybody ever said, wait, why the hell does Noah and Emil like each other? Or where did this come from? No, you understand it. So that when those big moments happen, like when Chapter 5 happens, it really hits.
Yep, very true.
Very true.
I think definitely with you there.
That is one of the best parts about Xenoblade 3. I think just the character dynamic was very organic in a way that you just don't see in a lot of games, and I absolutely like that about 3. I really, really love what they did there. And we see this right from the get-go, even from the initial hot spring scene. Or is it a hot spring or is it a bath? Yeah, like even from just
it was a bathhouse, but yeah.
Bathhouse, yeah, like just that was so cool. You know, you just have Uni chilling with Noah and Lance, and they didn't try to make it awkward or anything like that. It was just a normal ass scene. And that's amazing. I want more of that in games.
Yeah. Trope out the window. Speaking of organic, this conversation has been quite organic. I don't know how we move on to the next person's point.
No, yeah, it's been nice that it's been like just a conversation. So
don't get me wrong. I love that. I'm just I do feel like we probably should at some point.
Gotcha. Well, B, I know you have written down some things, and we haven't heard much from you. So would you want to go into your feelings on Xenoblade 3 and Future Redeemed?
Sure. I feel like I'm going to get attacked by some of this because.
Fine.
Oh, you are. I'm
Shut up, Nick. All right. So I was really hyped about this. As I've said on the podcast before, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is the reason why I bought a second Switch. Is because I loved that game so much. I had to play it again, and for me, the only logic was to buy another Switch. And then you guys told me to make another account, but whatever. Deeds were done. Anyway, I was hoping I could have that same experience with 3. I did not.
You did not buy another Switch.
Do you ever
Actually, I have 3 Switches, but that's a different story entirely.
Do you ever use one of the Switches of Boomerang or something?
No.
Okay. Just wondering.
Well, my third Switch right now is currently holding Mega Man, but that's another story entirely. Anyway.
No. SD cards are too cheap. We need more Switches.
I wanted to like this game more than I actually did. Like, don't get me wrong, it had an interesting concept with the worlds merging. Again, we couldn't figure out what origin was, but I like the idea. Both worlds gonna die, whatever. Reincarnation, I usually gravitate towards time travel and reincarnation. So I'm like, oh, hello, this is interesting to me. Combat was fine.
Wait, hold on. Back up just a little bit.
Yep.
You normally gravitate towards time travel over reincarnation?
No, both.
Both. Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out.
Reincarnation and time travel.
Gotcha. Okay, yes. I just wanted to make clear on that point.
Yeah, because I've played both games. That was in the past. This game in the future. I was like, yes, this is my jam.
I love when people are like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if Xenoblade had time travel? And I'm just... You should play Xenosaga.
But in a different way. Anyway, I love the combat system, different weapons, the heroes. Like, I loved all that. For me, what the downside was after that climax of that chapter, what was it, 5 or 6?
It's 5.
5, chapter 5. You had me by the heartstrings. I loved it. And as soon as we ended that chapter and we started going on, I'm like, I could see what was going on a mile away. I'm like,
there's a lot of cleanup after that.
This was like the romantic garbage that you see at Christmas in July. Like, I'm like, come on. Like, I could see this a mile away.
Wait, what do you mean Christmas in July?
So, okay.
What are you talking about?
Christmas in July is when they come out with all the Christmas movies in July. That drives me nuts. Where he is going to lose his bake shop and she's going to come save him, but they totally hate each other, but they actually love each other. And in the end, they
Oh, okay. That's what you're talking about.
That.
What do you mean Christmas in July? I was like,
I'm not used to.
Like, I know that's a joke,
Hallmark
but
movie.
Yeah, Hallmark.
Sorry,
okay.
Hallmark movies.
You're good.
I was able to predict what was going on, when it was going on, and when it becomes like that, you lost.
Are you talking about the plot in general, or are you talking about
plot in general?
Okay.
Plot in general. Like, I knew what was going on. I figured out that there would be a refugee camp somewhere. Like,
I don't think they tried to hide it as much.
No,
after
they
that,
didn't.
For sure.
But if I can predict it, then you've lost me. So after that chapter, I was not impressed with the game at all.
That's pretty far in, at least. But
I know,
sure.
it was pretty far in, because it did tug at my heartstrings. And a big moment was like right near the end when you're going. There's that gate there to fight Zed, and I'm like, with most games, if I really like the game, I'm like, okay, I got to go back, quest some more, whatever. I need to explore some more with this before I go to that final boss. This game, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going through that door. Let's get this over with. I hate it. Let's do it. I couldn't get the core game done soon enough after that chapter. I thought that, like, the cutscenes with the characters, how we've mentioned before, I love that. That was beautiful. Love it. But when they're reading, like, you guys know I hate reading. But when they had all that dialogue and speech bubbles, I'm like, all right, skip. Just someone read it to me. Like, I couldn't be arsed to read it.
You should be a speedrunner.
Be sure. That said, that's the core game. That said, I absolutely loved Future Redeemed.
I was gonna say that game hit with some real late, like,
I couldn't predict
crazy
what the
shit.
hell. Yeah, it was like boom that. I'm like, where did that come from? Why couldn't we have Future Redeemed as intense and engaging, and I can't predict it and whatever? Can't we do that with the core game through the whole story? Like, couldn't we do that, please?
Future Redeemed is the funniest shit to me because it's the one that I hear people like. I hear people are like, "Oh, I hated 3, but I played Future Redeemed, and now I love 3." And then I hear other people are like, "I loved 3, and I played Future Redeemed, and I hated 3 now."
Oh, that's kind of...
And I'm like, there is so much of that, and I'm like, it's so funny to see.
I'm still not gonna play 3 again. I don't think. I don't like 3.
That's true.
I would play Future Redeemed again. Don't get me wrong, but to play 3 again like I did with 2, I'm like, I think I wrote in the notes. I wanted to play 3 again to prepare for this episode, and I can't put myself to it. I just can't. And I don't know if that's like, if I'm going to be a minority in this conversation, so be it. But I don't want to say hate. I was disappointed with 3.
Yeah, that's I can tell you didn't hate it.
Yeah.
What I'm going to suggest to you be, I'm not saying that you're wrong. But what I'm going to suggest to you is to maybe one day, not necessarily play through 3, but either read up or watch like a lore video on 3 and some
you said read.
I said either read up or remember, you do either or watch some videos on 3's lore or certain concepts with 3, because you have mentioned in this episode even that there's parts that you just genuinely didn't understand, and I think you would be beneficial for you to maybe try to look into those specific things, like maybe check out some threads about Zed, because there's been a lot of talk about Zed and what they stand for and what the origin is and all that, and I think if you can maybe try to look at those specific parts, maybe even rewatch some of those cutscenes.
I mean, that's valid, yeah.
I think
I agree with that.
You should consider doing in the future, and then maybe revisiting the game.
Yeah, I wish I'm like a stupid gamer and they could spell some things out. Like, I don't...
Yeah.
Like, I love lore, don't get me wrong. I think I've mentioned before in previous podcasts, the more lore in a game, the better. For my hatred of reading, I will actually go read lore because I find it interesting. Most recent was I read the whole Kingdom Hearts series.
Get a YouTube video that will read the lore to you.
And then especially that. If you can read the Kingdom Hearts thing, I definitely recommend reading up on certain concepts in Xenoblade 3. I could even point you to some after the episode.
Yeah, sure. Link me. I mean, if I could...
that would be beneficial to you, because I think there's a little bit of stuff that I'm not going to say like you're going to suddenly love the game once you read that stuff, but I think it might help you gain a better understanding of some of those things, and I think that might help you be like, okay, I kind of see where they might have been coming from with this.
I definitely think there's a few things that you've mentioned specifically that you like getting a different perspective on it would change your at least your appreciation of said things, because I do feel like there's a few things that you've mentioned that is like, oh, there was a vital point there that you missed it, which understandably enough, the way it was presented was not always the best.
Yeah, it probably could have been those speech bubbles and like, and skip. Like, it could have been that. And I admit that's my downside, but
you would drive me nuts doing that.
You're
if
welcome.
I saw that.
I love you too.
But I'm gonna be honest.
Shut up. If you're gonna give me a long game that has heavy lore, and you don't at least have like a backflash, or
and there's no Pokemon in it,
or
let her speak.
And there's not going to be like a clip scene or like a little flashback or something. If it's all going to be dialogue, I'm sorry, I'm going to check out. I can't. Yeah.
Well, if our
like there's like Metroid does a really good like do this. They do a quick little flashback of something that happened, or a quick little cutscene or something. There doesn't have to be dialogue in the cutscene. It could be even just a picture image, like what Jin saw, a picture of him in Future Connected. No, not that.
Yeah, no, I get you.
You know
like environmental storytelling, not necessarily exposition drops.
Exactly. If you give me that, then I can follow along. But if you're going to do what 3 did, and give me all the dialogue. I'm sorry, Nick. Skip button, fast forward, skip. I can't.
No, you're cool. Just don't stream it to me.
I didn't stream it.
I'll pull out my fucking light gun or some shit if you start that while I'm watching.
Broken the NES Zapper out.
Yeah,
so I need to find a game with lots of dialogue and make you watch it and duct tape your eyes open and you can watch me skip all those.
Torture to me would be watching B play through a visual novel.
Oh my god!
Yes.
Oh my god! No.
But yeah, overall,
skip. I don't know how to beat this puzzle. There were no clues given to me.
No. Did I like it? It was okay. I wish I liked it more. That's my opinion.
That's valid.
Sure. Your goddamn homework. Shit.
How do you...
I don't like homework.
You're a teacher.
I still give homework.
Listen. Having learned this about you just now, and this is a genuine question. I am not attacking you. This is. How did you get through? How did you get through like RPGs in like the 90s?
Because the lore interested me.
Pokemon. It was only Pokemon.
That too. No, I said before, my favorite game is Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. That game interests me, because I'm like, who the hell is this character Mallow? I don't know what he is. He says he's a frog. He does not look like a frog.
He's a rain frog cloud man.
I read that because it was interesting. Like, he cries, rain comes down. Why? I don't know. I'm going to read why. But if you have these just sidebar commentaries of all this stuff, no, too much reading. That's my answer.
It's a difference in the writing styles, pretty sure too, and just like there's actually this actually brings up another point. This is a little bit of a tangent, but like bear with me. So presentation, huge thing in video games, huge thing in a lot of things, but especially in video games where there are so many mediums that work. In a movie, do you often read things on the screen, subtitle stuff aside?
No, because
you don't. But in a video game, you're talking hours upon hours, and unless you're like AAA or like some huge thing, you can't really necessarily voice all that dialogue. And even if you can, a lot of times you'll put like letters to it. There's a huge thing in presentation, not just of like the writing styles, but also of just how eye-catching the image of the dialogue in the talk bubbles or whatever on screen is. And I can attest to this in a lot of ways, especially actually Xenoblade is a great example because there are a few Xenoblade games. I remember Xenoblade 2 talking to NPCs and given there was a shitload of dialogue, but that might be the most sped-read NPC dialogue I've ever seen in a game. Like stuff like Xenoblade 2. Honestly, some parts of Xenoblade Cross I could say the same thing about, where it was just like, yeah, I got the gist. I'm done. Like, because there was just so much of it, and the way it was, there was something about just the way it looked on the screen, especially in Xenoblade 2, where if it was just some, like, every NPC is named, pretty much, but if it was just some nobody NPC spouting some stuff, I was like, yeah, I get what you're talking about. I'm good. I like almost subconsciously rather than consciously read some of that stuff at time. So yeah, no, I get that, and I feel like
I will echo that, Nick. There were a lot of times in both DLCs, Torna and Torna, as well as the Future Redeemed,
especially like the Nopons at times.
Oh my god!
Like, shut the fuck up.
I have a conspiracy theory about Nopons.
Tell me what it is. I bet you it's not a conspiracy theory.
The conspiracy theory is that they're behind everything. Like,
okay, that's somewhat not, but
like here's the thing. You ever notice how they're never they're never really in any danger? Like the bad guys never go after the Nopon, yet the Nopon are always there.
They're full of fat and not much meat.
Did you know that in Xenoblade 2, did you know gaming? Did you know in Xenoblade 2 there is a side quest that reveals that Nopon's entire dialect is based on them creating something to be purposefully cute so as to manipulate people, and just over time it took. That is legit. That is in the fucking game.
That doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me.
It like became their dialect because one of the Nopon discovered that it was like a good manipulation tactic to talk extra cutesy, and so they were merchants commonly, so that was like great, and so they just took and they kept on doing it, and it just became their speech pattern, like just naturally. That was
the thing I actually kind of appreciated about Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is that like one of the main boss fights was a robot being piloted by a nasty Nopon, and I was like, I'm fucking here for this. This
feels like a fully fleshed race of people now.
It does, because in the first game they're all seen as like these
cutesy little tree folk,
cute little mascot characters that just feel very one note, and in the second one we've got like this nasty Nopon, and I'm like,
oh no, I thought it was a little weird when we got to the part where we discovered Riki had 15 fucking children or something.
Oh my god,
populates like a rat.
There's this fucking meme that I have seen on that shit, that every time I see it, all I could go for like the next 3 days is just I'll randomly just say, Riki won't slop.
Oh god,
Riki no use protection.
But wasn't it implied that he adopted two of those?
Yeah, he did. Well, I don't think it was even implied, because like in future Connected, I think that both Riku and
oh god,
sorry,
Banana.
I know Manano, but I was just like, I was thinking,
and Nene. That's what you're thinking of.
Yeah, Whip and Nene. We're both specifically said that they were adopted, or at least
both of them were adopted. I'm pretty sure some of Riki's 15 children are biological.
I think it's 11.
But let me bring this up real fast. In Xenoblade Chronicles Cross, there is an entire line of side quests revolving a Nopon caravan that is, don't ask me why I'm changing my pronunciation of Nopon whenever they are called Nopon and Cross and everything else they're Nopon. But anyway, there's like an entire caravan basically led by a woman and her children who have an absentee father. So like, there's that. I can't remember what happened to the dad, if something happened to him, or if he just left. I think it was like lightly implied that he just left. So there's a lot of there's even more than that. There's a lot of Nopon shenanigans going on that's really funny and kind of sad at times. Kind of just messed up. So yeah, I love shit like that. It's so fun.
Anyway, Xenoblade as a whole, Kino would in fact. Oh, actually, I think that
Kino's. Kino's.
I was gonna say, I think that was his name, wasn't it? Kino.
That was his name.
Kino.
Kino.
Okay. Kino and Nene.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the games, or just Kino.
But no, I am. I am in fact talking about all three games. The video game equivalent of fine cinema to me. I thoroughly enjoy all three of them. I'm very excited to see where the franchise goes from here, see what Takahashi does next. And, I very happy to be here and having experienced this after having Justin twist my arm about it for as many years as it took him to finally break me and have me play these games.
Okay, but it's B's turn.
It's kind of infectious.
What?
Was it still your turn?
Oh, probably. I don't know. Anthony, I pass the torch to you. No, I just said, like, I don't hate the game. I just,
That's valid. That's all.
I'm sorry, I keep on interjecting with stuff, but like, it's so relevant to their conversations about it,
That's all right.
Yeah, the speech bubbles and no. Oh, but one thing I really, 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 really like about the game is the flutes. That's it. The flute music.
Yeah,
I loved it. I just liked how Noah's send-off song was so unique, and then Mio's was so unique, and you put them together, and it's like a souffle of happiness. That's it.
You had me until souffle. Just kidding, I like souffle.
I like how they freaking made those flutes.
I wish they had done like. This is just stupid, but it would have been funny if they had made the flutes like playable in game in the way of like in the way of like Zelda or something, where you could just fuck around with it.
That would have been cool.
That would have been fun. Yeah, that would have been cool.
I also liked in the story from the stories that I did pay attention to that each flute sender offer. I can't think of the term right now.
Offseer.
Each Offseer has a unique song. So it doesn't matter if you are Kevis or Agnes. Doesn't matter, you have a flute trainer, the Offseer trainer, and then you have your apprentice, for lack of a better term. And each of them has their own unique system of playing that instrument.
That is cool.
I thought that is true to any musician. You know, you could train under great musicians, you could be inspired by, but you still have your signature sound. And I thought, hey, for this idea of, you know, sending off, it's not like that trumpeter song that you hear at every Remembrance Day. It is their own unique sound. And the game did incorporate that numerous times through different characters, main characters, and heroes. And I liked it.
That is cool. Let's see. Well,
and the trumpets they go.
Well, Nick, did you have any other your specific thoughts on what you?
Yeah, I definitely still have thoughts.
Go ahead.
I know I've interjected a lot of thoughts here, but God, do I have a lot of thoughts about this series?
All right, should I get some popcorn for this ride?
If you want, I mean, you can feel free to interject anyone, but I have already said a lot about the cast on those other things. The overall story, I feel like, all in all, good story. Pacing, as we talked about before, pacing a little rough.
A little?
No, I think it's a little. I don't think it's a lot. I don't think no. Listen, I'm taking you into serious consideration here on that comment. Don't turn it down, otherwise I'm just going to make fun of you. Anyway. Like it's the pacing definitely has some misgivings for me, especially like I do think like they hit a climactic high point at the end of chapter 5 that makes the rest of it feel a little bit like cleanup. And honestly, that last fight sequence, story-filled as it may be, is a fucking slog and a half.
That's where I wish they spent more time on this game.
I like the second part of that fight, even though it's the part that I randomly started rapidly losing whenever I thought I was winning and was like, wait, what is going on? And then died and was like, are you telling me you have to play this from this entire sequence from the start of this sequence?
Yes.
And you have to, I'm like, just add a skip version to the first half. It's just a glorified cutscene anyway. Fuck you. But that second sequence, fun fight and awesome, and like it's just tricky enough to have at least made me lose once. But luckily I can't complain too much. I only lost. I'm sure there are other people that died more than once to it. I was also playing on hard mode the entire time. And I don't regret it because I've gotten to this place where playing games like this that are very strategic in the way that you approach them on like a harder mode, especially, is really fulfilling for me because I've realized as I've gotten older that I get like this whole, and I understand for people who hate going through menus, and the menus could absolutely be better in this game.
Oh,
but
I can talk about the menus.
The menus fucking... Okay, so we'll get to that a little bit later, because I was planning on talking about that. But first of all, I've gotten this like appreciation for strategizing in specifically like RPGs when it comes to like speccing out your character. Maybe this comes from me, my love of like D&D-esque things, like in creating characters in D&D, especially. And I'm not a min-maxer, don't get me wrong. I'm just like, I like to create unique feeling characters that go for different things from the norm in like a D&D like game. I actually play Pathfinder, which is offshoot of 3.5, which might be one of the more in the weeds D&Ds, and that might have been what's like grew my appreciation for things like this and RPGs especially. But
it's fourth edition, but good.
It's one of those things where it's like, it's probably the least streamlined, but is the most detailed at the same time, and that's like a double-edged sword where it's like, you're going to spend forever making that character, but once you do, god damn, it feels great.
Super customizable, yes.
It's incredibly customizable.
Bread and butter is that everything is like incredibly customizable.
Pathfinder is so customizable, it makes me go back to it whenever you can account to you're a witness to this. I was a little disappointed with 5 and 5e because of the less, even though it's not that much, all in all, it's really not that much, but I was just like, wait, I can't do this and this and this too? So, yeah, no, but my point is, there were things, especially like, one of the most ingenious things that I think Xenoblade 3 does, is when you die to a boss, you go back to the menu. That is fucking awesome. I absolutely love that. That set, because you can just like change your entire loadout in seconds and go back in. Now, where it doesn't come to just seconds is that fucking accessory menu for one thing.
Yep. I'm going to go, oh my goodness. So it's...
Go on. Yeah, I'll let you take the floor for a second.
Because this is something I have complained about endlessly.
No amount of time you can spend complaining about this will be as long as it takes me to scroll to the item I need in accessories.
Yeah. So it's wild because this is one of those things I have never complained about in an RPG before. But in 3, I don't know what the hell they were thinking. Actually, I think I know what they were thinking, and I don't like it.
Listen, I prefer the first Mass Effect to all the other Mass Effects because you can actually play it like an RPG and go through messy menus and choose all your shit. Yeah. But this is a step too far for me. Yeah. This is rein it in a little.
So Blade 3 has the whole thing where you can select classes, right? And then you can do all this cool stuff, and you can make you have so much freedom with this game and its combat. And it's so cool. It's so fun to spec. I also like specking in. Like what Nick said, he played it on hard, which I think makes sense with Xenoblade 3 because you have so much freedom there. And then when you play it on a higher difficulty, it actually forces you to take advantage of it. That's amazing. But
I'm going to be totally honest with you. If you're not, if you're playing the game anywhere close to optimally and you're not playing on hard, that game is kind of easy as fuck.
You're doing it wrong.
Well, meanwhile, me sitting over here. Why boss no guy?
You cannot go. Yeah, I'm sorry, Anthony. I don't mean it like that. I'm just like, you really went in full gorilla, like in underpants gorilla.
Go on, Justin.
Okay, I mean, like you weren't wearing underpants because you're a gorilla. You know what I mean?
But yeah, like so you have all these options, these cool options that are genuinely fun to experiment with. But holy fuck, why did they mess up the item sorting? So, and what's crazy about it is they had it right in Xenoblade 2. It was a non-issue there. Because
that's not completely true, but yes, go on. I mean, on the items, but the aux cores was pretty fucking messy.
Even the aux cores, I didn't have as much trouble with that. But, like, if I needed to make a setup for a blade, I could do that very quickly in Xenoblade 2. In Xenoblade 3... goodness, like I know you have a couple things like you can favorite, which does help. That does genuinely help, and I recommend people take advantage of the favorites feature. But in a game where you're just constantly getting items and equipment and loot, you need a sort button, especially if they're going to encourage you to switch classes as often as they do, because you're going to want to actually like spec up for a class, because the loadout that you have for one class isn't necessarily going to work on another class.
So, I'm gonna interject real fast.
Yeah, go for it.
It does have multiple sort version of buttons. It has multiple categories. They did try here, but there is like some massive oversights in that.
Yeah, and here's the thing: the categories that they have is nowhere near enough for how much you have. Like with Blade 2,
exactly.
In Blade 2, they had options to sort for almost every stat in that game. And it was great. I loved that. I genuinely loved that. Yeah, I'm one of the few people who actually leveled up common blades, and I used to spend hours going through that, trying to find the aux cores that I want, trying to come up with setups. I like doing that stuff. Blade 3 should have been a home run with me in that, but because the item sorting was so obnoxious, it made me not want to engage with that.
This is what I like to call the Diablo problem. Borderlands also has this issue. Borderlands, in a lot of ways, has this issue even more, because Borderlands is one of those games with a limited, inventory. Tons of guns that have AI to randomly customize them. So, you'll have a gun that is absolute shit in one way and actually incredible in another way. And it was I want to keep this in case I come into this situation where I need this. And so you end up acquiring all these guns and you're just I got to get rid of some of this because I got too many guns. And you'll be but which one do I get? You'll get with choice paralysis because there's no overlying thing that is easy to pick out, and you sit in your menu forever. And Diablo has a different problem, but also very similar to this, where it's just incremental shit. And what I wish that Xenoblade 3 had, with the accessories especially, was a way to easily filter out, yes, the reason this gets harder is because you have 6 party members. Is what if I want to spec 2 party members a similar way? Well, I better keep at least 6 of these within this range. I almost feel like somebody needs to make an option to sort out either anything under a certain percentage of, because there's a lot of items that is this does the same thing, but it does it a little better. And the only reason you would keep an item that isn't doing the best percentage of that particular stat that you want is if you want to apply it to a secondary character, right? So make it where if it's past the point, maybe this is not going to solve the issue, but at least you could just be if it goes over 6, 1 for each character, you just automatically trash it or something, let you set that option or something like that. But I don't know. It's a really tough issue to solve, to be fair. But I'm just I think a lot of this would have been solved if there were just a little bit less of that in general. This suffers from the collect-a-thon thing a little bit, where the the things you actually collect amount to quite a bit. And it's I'm afraid to get rid of this because it might become this. And also, as someone who plays games like Genshin or Honkai at times, they also do this with the artifact systems and stuff, where they're hey, here's this armor, but here's this thing that's slightly better, but also it randomly rolls these other stats. And I'm you know what? I'd like to see a little bit less of this in games, because this just leads to me sitting in a menu for hours with choice paralysis. And that is, it can be fun whenever I'm in the right mood, but most of the time I'm just I'm fucking sick of going through this menu. And it's bad in 3.
It is. It's one of the biggest complaints I have with 3's gameplay, and in my case, it actively turned me off of a system that should have been really, really enjoyable for me otherwise.
This is a problem that was in Xenoblade Cross, but Xenoblade Cross, this compared to Xenoblade Cross, it definitely does some stuff better. But Xenoblade Cross is less because of choice paralysis of items, because you kind of know if you're you did. I feel in Cross, at least you decide on a build and you spec completely towards that. It also has a huge inventory that kind of filters itself out a little bit in some ways, but I don't know. For some reason, it felt like it was a little easier as I went to get it in Cross. Maybe it was a little more spread out, but in this game, it's just fucking endless at times. Especially, I think part of the nature of it is how, if one thing is not working for you in this game, it encourages you to try a different loadout. And that's easier said than done when you consider that the loadout menu takes you 5 minutes to scroll through it.
And that's my point exactly. They want you to go back into this. They want you to engage with it, but they make it really cumbersome for you to do that, because you can't find what you want to find. It's just annoying to me, because I didn't have that issue in Xenoblade 2 whatsoever. And all I wanted them to do was, if they had taken the sorting system from 2 and put it in here, I probably would have been okay with it. But instead streamlined it like crazy. And I guess like they did it because you do have a lot of options in Xenoblade 2, and I don't know if maybe they thought that like that would be too intimidating to players to just be hit with all these different options, but like they still give you all these different accessories anyways, and it's like you're giving me all these different classes that are very specific, that require these very specific builds in order for you to use them effectively, but then you're not giving me the tools to actually go through what I got and pick out what I need for this.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive streamlining. It's like I've seen it a few times in games, and it always bothers me. It's
yeah,
like,
that's exactly what it is. Counterintuitive streamlining. Yep.
You streamlined this, but not in a way that made it better. You actually made it like
you made it more
take
complicated.
Me longer, and you made it more complicated by trying to streamline. It was like, yeah, oh cool. Like we only have to choose 3 accessories out of 5 million. Like,
yeah,
are you fucking kidding me? Like. Wow, I didn't expect to go into this part of me who is someone who is generally positive on this game, and I'm the one who's bitching the most about it. Like,
yeah.
Because I choose to bring up the part of it that I don't like.
No, and it's a shame, because, like, there's so much about this combat system that otherwise is really, really, really cool and genuinely fun.
It is really tough for me to choose between like this combat system and Torna's in a lot of ways, but in terms of sheer like this feels good to press the buttons, 3 is absolutely my favorite. Like they got there is, you know, like that intuitive feeling when you hit a button and something feels just right.
Mm-hmm.
There's Xenoblade has not always been the strongest for that with me. Like it acknowledges when you press a button because you noise, and sometimes you get a little bit of rumble, but it will delay, and it delays on purpose in a lot of these games. This game is the one where they were like, hey, you know all that delay? Let's take a little bit more of that out. It's not perfect, but it's the closest that I've felt in terms of that. Hard to explain, but I think you get me. It's a very much like a feel thing.
Yeah.
So just like in terms of that, and just like the smoothness of the battles in general, yeah, absolutely way up there. Now, I think the systems at times in 2 are a little more like engaging, but I don't know. Like it's a really tough call because they're both doing such different things. But
they are.
Needless to say, I very much enjoyed 3's combat like immensely. I thought it was like very fun, very engaging. It hit me on all the right ways whenever you're like planning what you're going to do to go up against a certain type of enemy. If you're going to like up against a special sort of enemy, or you're training up or it give you all these classes to train up. So it's like, oh, well, you know, I'm just fighting normal enemies, but I can level this class up. And that felt really good. It didn't feel nearly as grindy as like Xenoblade Cross. It felt kind of just like a sweet spot. And the class system, while I still do prefer the way that like Crosses works in a lot of ways, which you know you can't really do here, but this felt like that a really nice in between where it was just like, hey, any character can be whatever class. You can structure your party as you see fit, and you don't have to worry about like completely changing every single thing about the way you're playing. You don't have to worry about like certain sets of things. I mean, it changes up the gameplay a lot, but it also is just like it is not as much of a commitment in some ways. Like if you feel like I'm not really feeling this class right now, I'm gonna change this other class. It's not that bad hard to do, other than maybe changing some accessories around, which, you know, we've talked about the accessories. I think that is one way they streamlined it, in which it feels really good. I also think that, like, quest structure wise, the different strongholds, I forget what they call them, like the colonies where you're helping build them up. I guess they're just called colonies.
I think they are just called colonies.
Yeah, they're just colonies.
But like, I thought like the quest lines built up around them was like a really well done and intuitive way to like structure in side quests. I thought that was really cool. It was like, hey, you guys really like that Colony 6 side quests in Xenoblade 1? let's just do that for like a lot of places, and it fits into the story and it's natural. And I'm like, okay, yeah, like I'm on board with this. Yeah, I thought that was good. I really like they continued the thing from 2 that was a great idea, where they had kind of focusing around the extra party members that you can the heroes that you can grab. Just that collection aspect of those was great. Yeah, it's really hard to complain about that kind of stuff. The maps, all great. The music, I love some of the music. I'm a little like, I mean, I like all the music. I don't know if this is the strongest soundtrack in the series by any means. I don't feel like it is to me, but there are definitely some tracks that are big standouts that I really enjoyed. Yeah. And like just the environments in general, I felt like actually quite well designed in this game. I can't think of any that just like were a huge turnoff for me in this game. Like, they did some, that is one, actually, yeah, that's a big point for me. Like, I love exploration in these games, and 3, while it did definitely borrow a lot of design elements, obviously, for obvious reasons from the first 2 games, the way in which it mixed them felt very game design-y, cohesive in a way that really worked for me. Like, it hit my brain in a lot of the right ways, and like, I really enjoyed exploration in 3 quite a bit. So yeah, like, I guess I'm hitting mostly on gameplay stuff, and that's mostly because I feel like we've talked a lot already about story.
No, we should talk about the gameplay more.
Things, and gameplay in a video game.
Exactly.
Wow, believe it or not, gameplay in a video.
This is a video game.
Really tickles my brain in a certain way, and I like talking about it. And I feel like a lot of people, especially with RPGs, focused on, well, the story is this. I'm like, well, the story can be the best thing ever, and the gameplay can be absolute shit. And it doesn't make it a great video game. It just makes it a bad, subjective. But it makes it kind of a shit video game with a really good story.
Yeah.
But no, like, this game is competent as fuck as a game. This game is a great game. It's a really fucking fun game, in fact. But yeah, you gotta really meet it on its level at times. And that's true of this entire series. In fact, it's hard to be, other than not understanding how to play the game, which, fair with Xenoblade Cross, it's hard to be disappointed with the gameplay series in this entire series, other than maybe a little bit with 1, unless you just main Melia, which you should.
Melia's a lot of fun in 1.
Melia and Charla, IMO. You should just main those two.
I quite, I mean, that's, this could be another episode.
You want to actually have fun.
I think it could be a fun topic in a future episode to talk about 1's gameplay and do a dive on that.
I think we should.
I think there's a lot of really fun stuff in Xenoblade 1's gameplay that doesn't get spoken about.
It's another thing. It's going to take some research for sure, because there's a lot to go over. But I really want to do a bestiary episode.
Yeah. Bestiary would be fun.
I know I mentioned this a long time ago, but like, I think it'd be really fun to compare the bestiaries of the games, especially like there's a lot of similar design decisions made on those. Like, there's some Mechon that directly mimic like both Gnosis and like different monsters you would go in to find in like 2 and 3 and things like that, like just shape wise and things like that. And I'm like, that's deliberate in a lot of places. But no, that I digress on that point. There's this game for Xenoblade 3 is definitely a game that knows. It felt like it knew what it was trying to do. I don't feel like it always succeeded at everything. Like, in solving some problems, it made some worse. It's almost like honestly, in a way, it's almost like Ys, because like I feel like every newer Ys entry I go into, I'm like, oh, they'll probably like correct on this, and they do a little bit, but they stray so far off in another direction to like try a new thing that they kind of like muddy the waters on it and make it like, well, you know, if you'd focus more on this point, you could have made it way better. And I feel like this series does a little bit of that too, where it's like, yeah, you improved all this stuff, but also I feel like you could have improved this stuff a lot more, but instead you went this direction, which was just like going the other direction completely. But I like that. It's like there's something really fun about seeing just like the progression of those design decisions in general. Even if I don't agree with them, it makes it interesting. But yeah, I think the more I think back on it, and I've been definitely swayed by opinions and I'd have both people like in favor of the game. I've had tons of naysayers of the game, especially also. And I'm just like, at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? Regardless of all those opinions, I really enjoyed this game. I definitely see its faults, both in storytelling, in character writing, in what people didn't get for it. There's definitely said plenty of things. It's like there are things that a game should make sure you understand, and things that a game doesn't really need to spell out for you. And Xenoblade 3 and its DLC, especially, definitely missed the mark on that a few times. That is like undisputable. I feel like that it does that. It's like, oh, I wonder who this guy is. I'm like, everybody fucking knows who that guy is. And then other times it's like, well, you know, it's hand wave. What the fuck are you talking? Please explain. Please explain. No.
And then they do the whole perfect works thing where we're just not going to explain something in a game, but then we're going to release an art book where we all of a sudden just drop a bunch of lore in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then that causes more. This also makes for like some weird community stuff where it's like, one, sometimes it's very fun. It's very fun to speculate on things. Mm-hmm. I do like that it encourages that. Yeah. And then there's other times where the speculation gets a little overboard, and I'm like, can we just shut the fuck up? Yeah. like no, like I am totally for people doing their speculation, but there are times when I see someone like, what are we talking about anymore?
What are we even?
Like what's going on anymore? But yeah, anyway, that's neither here nor there. Mm-hmm. I think I am someone who also likes bittersweet endings, but I have some issues with the way Xenoblade 3 chooses to end in a few ways, mm-hmm. And I don't feel like I like a good bittersweet ending to something. I like a lot of anime where there is a bittersweet ending. I almost said I feel like this one isn't earned. I don't think that would be how I should put this, because I do feel like it is earned, but also it feels so avoidable at the same time that it irks me a little bit, if that makes sense. What do you mean by
avoidable?
Like, well, maybe not avoidable. Maybe that's not even the right way. I think it's like the push and pull tease of, oh, we'll meet again someday, but also how? Like, why? What makes you say that? Like, that thing. I was like, wait, so it's impossible for them to cross realms again, but also they're cross realms. So, yeah, and the DLC definitely came back and explained away a little bit of all that, but at the same time, it was like a little annoying that they were like, oh, but maybe they will, maybe they won't. I'm like, it's the ending. Can we just spell this part out a little bit? I don't mind you not spelling certain other deeper lore things out, but like this main thing going on right now in this moment of will Noah and Mio be able to cross the borders of their realms and meet again someday? Why is that totally left up to chance? That's just a little fucking weird to me.
So I semi-agree. I've been thinking about the ending to this a lot because for a very long time I kind of really hated the ending to this, and I've been thinking about it a lot. And I'm still not in love with it, but
I wouldn't say I hate it. I'm just mixed on it.
I have somewhat of a understanding of it. And
Anthony, do you need time to pop some popcorn or some shit?
So
no. I'm just
go on.
I'm happy to hear that he's come around a little bit on this.
So what it is a big theme with this game. So for me, I often interpreted this game as, this is a game about learning to move forward, right? Something bad happens, you grieve, and then you learn to move on from that. And a lot of what this game has kind of supports that, right?
Yeah.
And there's that really emotional, oh my god, we're leaving each other, we're never gonna see each other again, and the world split, and that's kind of cool. It's like, all right, so they're learning to like keep their memories alive and then live the rest of their life and try to move on from that. But then the world's come back, and I was kind of just like, oh, that kind of sucks. They could just be together again. So
I feel like if it were able to make up its mind a little bit on it, would have.
So here's the thing.
But I think, hold on, can I just jump in real fast? I want to say something to Justin's point. I feel like at the end of base game, they implied this, and that the ending of Future Redeemed kind of just confirms what the implication was. Where we see Kid Noah hearing Mio's flute and running off in that direction. I feel like the implication of the ending of base game 3 is that the worlds rejoin together, and the ending of Future Redeem just shows you it happening.
Yeah, no, it does, but it's not so much that the implications aren't there. I think it's mostly the presentation of it that bothers me.
Oh yeah, and that's what bothered me initially, because to me it kind of felt like, well, aren't you going against your own message, which is also a problem I have with Xenoblade 2's ending, but that's another rant.
It almost feels like, in a sense, it almost feels like the same thing as, oh, maybe it's this, and I'm like, well, obviously it's this. But fucking come on.
Here's the thing, and this is something that I've come to realize with this game. This game has another theme, and the other theme is about the future is very scary. Fate is incredibly fucking scary, and people are afraid of change. It's one of the main reasons people became Mobius. It's one of the reasons why Zed even created Ionis.
It's the endless now.
So you're maintaining a status quo. So that entire world is designed to stay a certain way. Right? Now, the world, obviously, like, it comes together at the end. I think that what the implication there is that it's up in the air, because our characters, the Ouroboros, they're out to break the status quo. They're out to go see what the future holds, whether it's good or bad. And I think the fact that it's left open-ended is definitely by design, because they want you to just say, okay, they don't know what's going to happen. They're just going to go for it. And that works, in my opinion. I think that actually does work for that.
I think thematically that's in line for sure.
That checks out with the game's theme of going for the future regardless of what happens. And that does work.
But
I'm not crazy with how it was presented, really. Like, I get the message. I don't think the way it was presented was really the best.
wow, what a tearjerker, except for it's kind of not, but it kind of is, but
yeah, I don't like that either.
Yeah.
Like, you're just fucking playing with me now. we having a gaff. We having a gaff, mate.
Exactly like what they did at the end of Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
In some ways, I almost wonder, honestly, like, I almost wonder if...
I don't know, but...
I was going to say, I almost feel like the ending could have been a bit better if they actually cut out that last part of Future Redeemed where they show the worlds joining and just leave that up to interpretation.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that might have actually worked a little bit better, personally, but...
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, the end of the core game, unless you've completely missed that flute playing, like, because I was playing it, my brother missed the flute playing at the end. So he's like, I don't get the ending at all. I'm like, well, there's hope for the future. But if you missed, the key was that flute, and if you weren't paying attention to it, or had no idea what the hell it was, you missed the whole point of the ending that they were trying to do.
Right. I think we have pretty complicated thoughts on this.
I think another part of the ending is that future... A lot of us are going to be inclined to look at it positively, but I think the point the game's trying to make is that it might not be positive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this series does seem to lean a bit more positive, but still.
And in some ways, that future could actually just prove Zed right. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why it's less ambiguous like that.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. I mean... They're definitely like, maybe it's just personal preference on like, I wish that they had been a little more clear on this or that, or been a little more precise in the way they did this or something. But at the end of the day, I can't be out here saying like, well, they went against the theme, because they really didn't.
They did not.
Like they stuck
it's actually very much in line with the theme.
Like, fuck me, I guess I'm wrong, but but also, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, almost in a way, I feel like maybe Xenosaga did it better in the way that they kind of, changed their fate and, like, broke free from eternal recurrence. It's like, it could end badly, or it could be good, but we're gonna go for it.
Well, yeah, but none of my homies like Kevin, so it's whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, hey, fuck that guy. We don't care about him.
Exactly.
Like that was like, we don't give a fuck. Kevin sucks. In this, I'm like, well, I like both these characters. I want them to have a happy ending, but also that's too much the status quo. So we gotta break it because it's not good to follow the thing. Like, that's cool. Mm-hmm. Fuck me, I'm wrong. Anyway, yeah, I think I think I'm trying to think of any other like gameplay or anything like that I have. There were some classes that were definitely more fun than others. I did have some problem with while I both like how in the weeds the accessories are, I also dislike it in some ways. Like I mentioned, most of it is just the incremental shit that gets a little bit old. You could streamline in that way. Just make either an item set that filters itself out per stat increase thing that it does, or like special thing that it does, or just make it where it's like universally, hey, this is the one that does this. This is the one that does this. This is the one that does this. You find them, you have them. You're good. It's hard enough to spec in a particular build that you want, and then account for, hey, the 300 stat particular. Well, not like there's not 300 stats, but it's like, hey, the 300 different things we can manipulate for your per character for each game. We have an accessory for all of them. Maybe rein it in just a little bit. Make our lives a little easier this time. I hate to even say that, because that's part of a thing I love about it, but at the same time, I'm just like, if you're gonna do that, like, at least let me arrange it to where it's like, hey, you have 15 of the same item, let me look at just all of those and get rid of the bottom 5 or some shit, So there, do that. You'll figure it out eventually, Monolith. I believe in you. The classes were great. There were some really clutch moments in that game. I had some special fights, especially where it was like, I've got two of these defenders that are like, what was that class that what was his name? The guy from First Colony with the big shield and the sword and
Xeon?
Xeon, yeah, eyeliner guy, yeah.
That's
eyeliner guy.
No, that's Guardian Commander.
Yeah, Guardian Command. Yeah, so that class, I had one fight I remember that like I still remember because I was like one of the special enemies, and I was down to like just like Sana and Uni where they were both spec'd in that class, and they were just like, there was like a thing where you could get them to like heal a slight bit off of how much like damage they defended or something, and it was just down just to them left, and I think I ended up winning the battle just with those two just like tanking for each other on and off. It was like great, and you could set up some like support classes with like healing circles and things like that got you some broken shit. Oh man, the support class circles were like so good. Anyway,
yeah,
I think I've said most of what I want to say about the game. I'm content to move on.
Okay,
cool.
Well, Justin, is there any? What were your thoughts looking back?
All right. I have very complicated feelings about this game, as some of you know. They're not all bad. I think a lot of you probably expect me to come in here to rip on the game. And there's definitely quite a bit I can rip into. But there's things that I do genuinely like. As we mentioned, the cast, I think that was really good. I think this game represents Xenoblade at its best and also at its absolute worst. And in some ways, that contrast kind of makes sense. So I do like the class system. This complaint is more of a personal issue. Definitely 100% skill issue on my end. Not crazy about the HUD and the color choice in the HUD.
The color scheme is very kind of garish almost. I don't know.
Yeah, I personally have a really, really difficult time telling when enemies are doing talent arts, because the game does tell you. It absolutely does notify you. Not only does it tell you when they're going to do a talent art, they'll tell you the exact moment it's going to come out too. Just hell if I could actually see it happen, even when I know when to look for it. I know like people complain about Xenoblade 2's HUD being too cluttered, but like at least I could read all the info on Xenoblade 2's screen at any given moment. I could not do that with 3, unfortunately. And I also wish that like the class system was tweaked slightly, where maybe if you max out a class, you could get a certain skill without having to equip an item. Like, let's say if you max out a certain medic class, then you could revive people without having to get that one item that lets you do that. I think that would have been really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Just as one example. Or maybe another class, if you max that out, you can get like an actual dodge button. So when you click the stick in, you can actually, it can boost your agility, right? For the animation. I think that could be really cool to experiment with. I believe there's an accessory that let you do that, but again, it's one of those things you kind of have to go out of your way to find it. I think it would have been cooler if that upgrade was tied to a class as opposed to just a random accessory that you got to go find.
Oh, hey Justin. So on your point just a bit ago about the telling when a talent art was coming out, I've had that problem in every Xenoblade game.
I don't have it in 2.
The only one that I think I didn't have it in as much was 1, only because of the time
the vision
mechanic. Yeah. No, almost every Xenoblade game I had to be actively making sure I was looking to see that the talent art was coming out, because I agree with you that in this game, due to the color scheme and things like that, it was a little worse, but it's just hard for me to keep track of in every game. I don't know. I almost wish they put it in the middle. They gave you the option to put it in the middle of the screen or something for me, because I'm just like, yeah, you showed up at the top near the light bar. I'm only glancing up there whenever I want to see how far I've gotten in the fight. I'm not looking up there to see. I think it doesn't help me that that's where the enemy name is.
Yes.
So, like, I'm like, well, I've already seen the enemy name, so my brain naturally wanders to, who cares about looking up there again? I know what the enemy is called now. Like, why would I look up there again? But then I look up, and then by the time I look up, it's too late because the attack's already coming out, and I'm like, well, fuck, I wish I'd known about that, but I didn't because it wasn't right in my face, and I have all this stuff on the bottom I have to pay attention to. I like fighting games where I have to watch 2 or 3 meters. Mm-hmm. And this is still fucking hard to follow.
Exactly. Like, listen, this is a game. I am a Mega Man player, right? I am always looking at a life bar. And yet still I'm missing that piece of information in Blade 3. So like my eyes are always looking right there. I know where to look for it, and yet I still can't see it sometimes. It's crazy.
Why is this motherfucker named Juicing the Fruit? Oh, that's not their name. They're using the tag.
Yes. Exactly. So that's like...
I think it doesn't help that it's not clear that that's an attack at first.
See, this is where Blade 2 did it better, because with Blade 2, the attacks always showed up towards the middle of the screen. It popped up in its own little menu. It was animated. You always knew when it was coming. So, like, you could quickly prep. You can quickly get a blade combo going. Like, there was ways you could fight it. But in this game, I personally have a lot of trouble. I'm sure there's people out there who can do it just fine. I'm sure people who are good at this game can do it just fine. It's something that I personally always struggle with.
And the dude also is like, blade combo, awesome.
Yeah.
And shit like that. Like, you had more audio clues.
But other things about the gameplay, I wasn't crazy about the environment in 3. Like, I didn't do this. I did not look up anything because I wanted to see if I can remember anything. I genuinely couldn't tell you the name of a single area in 3, which is, like, insane. Other than, I guess, the colonies.
That's fair.
Well, I mean, those are mostly numbers, and
yeah, I couldn't tell you the name of a single area in this game. And even, like, the music, I could not hum the music. Blade 1, Blade 2, I could do that all day long. I just can't do it with 3. I don't know why. It just didn't really hit with me as much.
I feel like Erythia C I could definitely hum.
Okay. I don't even remember what that one was.
The biggest, the one that's like a full fucking Wind Waker
No, I mean
map.
The song for that.
Oh, it was just like, light and kind of delightful. It was like,
One song I did like in Blade 3, and this is actually something I really like.
I like how right now, but...
I did like a song I did like in Xenoblade 3, and I actually play this when I go out for walks. I did like the song that plays when you find a secret area. I thought that was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. And I'll tell you why you couldn't remember any music from Xenoblade 3. Fucking Chain Attack! I forgot about.
Yeah.
Fuck you! I like the Chain Attack music, but you know what? I don't fucking like it anymore.
Yeah.
I like the original battle themes way better.
Yeah, you
get fucking Chain Attack song.
You get those Mobius battle themes that are like epic and shit, and then the Chain Attack.
And multi-phased, where they have dynamic stuff where there's like the first phase, action phase, a trouble phase where you're about to get your ass kicked, and then there's the end phase where the flutes start going fucking nuts and it sounds insane, and you rarely ever hear it because you're usually finishing off with the Chain Attack. And I'm like, that is not a gameplay. That is not like a flaw with the player. Whenever that is built into the gameplay in such a way that it encourages you to use as many chain attacks as possible, that is the fault of the game.
Yep, it's
just on a.
There were times that I knew I was doing well enough in a fight that I would say, "Fuck chain attack! I'm listening to this goddamn music." Finish this fucker off to this fucking flute solo insane time. Go on, Ant. Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I actually really like the chain attack theme, and
nobody actually dislikes it, Ant.
It's actually really good.
But what I was going to say is, it never bothered me. Like, it bothered me maybe once or twice when but the only times was when there was tonal whiplash. So when you're fighting N at the beginning of chapter 6, after he got punked real bad, the chain attack in that fight is a mistake, because the song that is playing does not blend well with the chain attack theme tonally at all. And they have the ability to do chain attacks without playing the chain attack theme. Yeah. You see this, I think during the final battle. So
I think the idea was like, oh, this is the big comeback, and so they thought, oh, we'll work in every situation, but it doesn't.
It does not.
Tonally, that it didn't work. And this is what I'm talking about when I say maybe a little bit more time in the oven, like as opposed to pushing the game out when they did. Little things like that, I think, could have.
I just feel like that was a conscious decision, though. That's the thing. I'm just like, I think just some of them designing, they were like, no, this is fine for this.
No,
and I'm just like, I don't think so.
So, but that's just it. I don't think they had time to go through and screen every scenario and play test it for like tonal adaptability.
I mean, but when you're doing like a boss fight in a unique situation with a unique boss music, you don't think that they screen that? I mean,
I mean, I think that's something that they might have pushed towards the end of development, and then when you suddenly lose 3 minutes of development time, that's the sort of stuff that
or maybe their playtesters just didn't see an issue with it. I don't know.
That's another thing that could have very well happened. As far as the music for Xenoblade Chronicles 3 goes, it's my second favorite in the French in of the 3 games. I like 2's, but I will say that 2's the most, but 3 definitely had a lot of memorable bangers. The Mobius theme, the final battle with Zed is awesome. The chain attack, I mean, we've talked about that, but the overworld themes,
just the Mobius fights in general were really good.
Yeah, the fights in general were pretty memorable. The random battle theme was okay. I like the 1 and 2 way more. But there's this song that plays. One of my favorite songs in the soundtrack is the song that plays that, like, when you're in hostile territory, and I even think that's the name of the song, is Hostile Territory or something like that. And it's like really, really intense. And I liked that one a lot. And there, like, the situation and some of the music that plays during the cutscenes is absolutely incredible.
Yeah,
really. But also, some of the music that gets played in the cutscenes is overplayed. Like it got to a point at one point where I'm like, they're gonna play the song again. Yep, they're doing it.
Well, I mean, I think they did that in 2 and everything like that as well, but it's like, this
never got to the point.
This is an 80+ hour game.
Right, but in 2, despite 2's length, I never noticed it.
Well, counterattack is fucking banger, so
hell yeah.
And so the music in 3 is in my opinion very strong. I mean, shit, the opening sequence where you're walking through the battlefield and like you just hear the choir like singing in the background of that opening area. I'm like, damn, they really set the stage with this. And
I'm glad that you brought up that, because that song in the very first part of the game, it might be hands down my favorite song in the game, just by the way it sets the tone. I honestly wish they had stuck the landing on everything else as well as they did on that song, because that song is fucking incredible. Like, I just like how it starts with just like the TikTok sounds, like the general like and then like the tempo follows it just like through, and the choir coming in sets up like just this tone for the entire game of just this horrible like battlefield situation throughout that I honestly wish they had followed through with a little bit more on some of the other tracks. Not that they're bad. I do like a lot of the tracks in the game, but that, for me, one of the most memorable tracks. One of the other most memorable tracks for me is honestly the rest areas. Like, I loved the rest area song. Like, something about it did like put me exactly in the place that it needed to be for those scenes. It was like perfect for
what
those.
What I need to do is and I've been telling myself I need to do this for a while, and I need to sit down and just listen to just the soundtrack.
You should, but I was also going to say something else, like in terms of, hey, I can't remember any specifics to this. There might be another reason. Soundtrack is 10 hours long.
No, but here's the thing. Like with Blade 1 and Blade 2, I heard songs in that instantly click with me, and I can remember them for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I didn't have that moment with Blade 3. And I don't know why.
I genuinely can't tell you. I genuinely can't tell you why. Because there are
I think it's a grower.
3. And that isn't to say that there aren't good songs in 1, but for 1, the only song for me that really like sticks out, well, there are 2. I'm sorry. How could I forget? There are 3. Okay.
There's 4.
But you didn't remember it at first.
There are 3 songs in the first game soundtrack that really like I go back and listen to. That's Zanza the Divine, You Will Know Our Name, of course, and the Aerith Seas theme at night. That shit's just fucking beautiful.
What about Satoru Martian?
Especially when you couple it with that weather event.
Oh, Satoru Martian, you mean?
I fucking love that song.
I forgot about that one. Yeah.
Mountain at Night. I love that song.
Yeah,
I think it's just a little overkill, but it's
also a banger. Okay, so there are 4. There are 4 songs.
But I also agree with Xenoblade 3. There's the only song that like is embedded in my brain from Xenoblade 3 is the Mobius boss battle theme. Just like the first time I heard it, I just put a smile on my face, and I was just like,
so good,
"Holy
right?
shit!"
That's a good theme.
Yeah, but
I will say that's a good thing.
Yeah. But I agree.
For me, it's
absolutely blew the load with that one.
That one is amazing. And like in terms of like stand out, but like in terms of scene setters, that first one from the just the initial battlefield, just like really, always stands out in my mind. You know, like that's a huge one for me. But yeah, it's a big soundtrack. There's a lot going on in it. I can't blame anybody for like really forgetting about a lot of parts of it. And I think there's a lot of duds on, well, maybe not duds, but like, I think there's a lot that just don't hit the same way. Like, I feel like some of the more like plains-like areas, especially in that game, I feel like the songs kind of like, they go for this ambience that kind of ends up blending together a little bit more. And it's just, it's not that it's bad, it's just that it's not as memorable because of it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, when that game wants to hit, it certainly does.
True.
It's just not, and I do think that it does suffer a little bit from being a little bit too derivative at times of the previous soundtracks. Because it's like, oh, they're clearly trying to make one that sounds similar to this place from this thing, and it makes sense because this area is a mixture of this area and this area from 1 and 2, but
which is something that, like, unfortunately, I think kind of hurt 3 for me, because especially with the areas, and I think this is part of the reason why I didn't find them to be that memorable, is because so many of them are very much just, well, remember this from 1 and 2.
Yeah,
and I get it. It makes sense. I'm just.
I feel I get you in that way. A level design was like great, like well structured.
It makes sense why it was done that way. It's just that unfortunately, to me, it makes it come off as less memorable. Like, the things I feel unique to 3 are, okay, those are more interesting, but, like, when it's just, oh yeah, remember Sword Valley? Just like, okay, cool.
Yeah. I will give it at least that it,
no, actually,
it built that into the story.
So,
what were you saying, Ant? Sorry.
No, like Justin was saying, do you guys remember Sword Valley? And then I'm like, I remember needing to go to Sword Valley, but I don't remember Sword Valley at all. I remember the city. I remember the thing that immediately follows Sword Valley, but I don't remember Sword Valley at all.
Remember when you went to Valak Mountain at night and the sky looked like piss?
Hell yeah.
Jesus Christ. Like Valak
because
Mountain,
the yellow beams.
It really does. It really not wrong. And
I know.
Compete on the snow.
This might be a hot take.
I'm the only one who likes Valak Mountain.
Might be a hot take. I don't know if it is.
No, I do like Valak Mountain. I just thought it was funny.
I don't. I hate.
Oh, you don't? Oh, I like. I actually really like Valak Mountain.
Absolutely hated Valak.
It's actually one of my favorite parts in the game. But I actually like that.
But that's
as cool it is to see the lights at night. I do think that I like Valak Mountain better at day because of the weird snow blindy effect going on. I think that's really well handled in that.
That said, I will take Valak Mountain any day of the week over Tantal. If anyone sends me to Tantal ever again, they might as well send me to hell. I hate Tantal.
No.
But Tantal has a fun super boss.
Tantal's fine.
I never did any
turtle.
And I like the...
Anyways, but this is getting way off
topic.
Right. Yeah, so back on 3. I wish I liked the areas of 3 way more than I did, but whatever, that's that. One thing I'm also not crazy about with 3's gameplay is I'm not a huge fan of the elites.
Oh, the elite monsters?
Yeah, I'm not crazy about that mechanic because that also changed how leveling up works as well.
I know what you're going to say, too, about things with the elites, because I just remembered something that I was like, oh, yeah, it's pretty annoying that they do that.
Yeah, because it made it so that, like, they're the only way you can really level up in the game. Like, not even killing unique monsters will grant you that much EXP, even with a chain attack, which I play Blade 2, and that's one of the best ways to grind in Blade 2, is to do chain attacks. Little tip for y'all, you want to level up, like, 10 levels real fast in Blade 2, chain attack the dinosaurs over in Temperentia.
Yep. That's I grinded those so much.
You will go from level like 80 to the cap in like 20 minutes.
Yep.
It's crazy. But I wasn't crazy about the elites, and I heard that elite battle theme so much that I actually got really sick of it. The unique monster theme took a while for it to really grow on me, and part of it is because I feel like I just didn't really get a chance to hear it that well in game, and also chain attack interrupting that too. But also, like, it took me a long time to find a mix of it on YouTube that wasn't like cut in a weird way.
Yeah,
because that song has multiple phases, and if you actually can listen to that song and listen to each phase like in order, it's actually really cool. Especially when you get to the last part. The last part of the unique monster theme is really, really fun because the flutes are going fucking insane.
Yeah, they are.
No one's gonna hear it because you're probably chain attacking.
That's what I was talking about earlier. Exactly what I meant earlier. And I love that song, but you don't hear it half the time.
I remember listening to that song on YouTube, be like, "Oh, this is actually kind of cool." You know what? Maybe I like this.
Music always comes back to you won't hear it because you're chain attacking.
And that's the reason we have disdain for chain attack.
You won't hear our name.
Also, like, something that I know Ant was talking about how he thinks the game is rushed, and I can see why he says that. But I also think, just in general, I hope if they're making another Xeno game on the next Switch, whatever that is,
Switch 2.
Whatever that Switch is going to be called.
The Super Switch.
Go on, Justin.
I hope that I hope that these games don't release with like really insane, jarring bugs. Because even Xenoblade 2 had some pretty crazy ones at launch.
Think you can take me?
They're going to call the next Switch the hub.
Okay. So Blade 3, I believe they fixed this, but remember how like the cooking just straight up didn't work?
Yeah, I mean, it was broken in places for sure.
It just straight up didn't work.
Wait, are you talking about like whenever it didn't work at all, or like
because you wouldn't?
I thought
actually,
they patched that.
They did later on, but
okay, yeah.
But at least when I played through the game, they didn't act like you didn't actually get the stat buffs that you're supposed to get from it.
Yeah, that's what I remember. Well, I thought it was only a few select ones, but sure.
Maybe it wasn't because I remember. I think I remember reading the EXP one was busted, especially.
I think I'd heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, there's stuff like that I'm just like, man, how did this? Come on, Monolith.
You thought you cooked, but you didn't. You undercooked.
That said, I do like some of the dumb features in this game, like being able to do laundry. Fucking genius. Love it. And I love how that carries over into cutscenes too. I think that's just awesome.
In fact, in the next one, just like increase that, like make it more like if we're covered in shit, make it actually look like we're covered in shit.
So, story-wise, I do like a lot of the themes. I think, like conceptually, the story is actually quite good. In practice, the execution leaves a lot to be desired. For
presentation,
my taste, at least.
Execution, presentation. I think it needs some work. Yeah.
Future Redeemed seemed to be kind of like the answer to that. And for a while, I used to think that like Xenoblade 3 was kind of not really the game for me, but Redeemed was the game for me. That was the game that kind of brought the old fans back in.
I think it is and it isn't. I still have a few little gripes with Redeemed that other people have brought up.
And I'm going to go on. I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to go on a bit of a personal tangent in a bit too. I have very mixed feelings about some of the revelations in Future Redeemed. There's some really great fan service. I think that's awesome. I think that's cool. It's enjoyable. But at the same time, it kind of like my initial reaction was, "Oh, that's neat." But then, like when I thought about it, I was like, actually, do I really want this?
Yeah.
And that's when I'm like, no, I don't want this, actually.
Your wife is in the sword? What kind of Bionic Commando reboot ass shit is this?
I'm not even talking about that, believe it or not.
I'm just kidding.
That's the funny part. I'm not even getting to that. Yeah, like, back to what we were saying about how, we're always kind of like weary on Takahashi's nonsense, and I guess like with me,
we love it, but we also fucking hate
sick.
One does not simply love Takahashi's bullshit.
So the thing that I loved about Xenoblade 1 is that it felt like for the first time, Takahashi had a complete thought. Like it worked. It worked by itself. Blade 2 worked. It also worked by itself, and the connection to 1 was kind of just a fun little bonus. Mm-hmm. But with 3, the connection is its entire identity, and I'm not crazy about that personally. And
well, I think that's like why what we connect with on it being like the new characters. That's the only break from that identity in a lot of ways.
And, yeah, you're right, and those are the parts where Blade 3 shines the most for me. Because that's the part where it's allowed to exist outside of 1 and 2. And now with Future Redeemed, it's trying to, like, bring in the other games. And to me, I'm just like, just leave them alone. Let them be their own thing. We don't need to mix everything together into this mess, and then you're probably not even going to deliver on it anyways. Or you're just going to make it really weird and wacky. I guess I just don't have a lot of faith that they're going to pull it off well. They could, but they haven't really convinced me that it's going to amount to much in the end. And it's just kind of like, I don't want them to try and get me excited for something that I'm probably not going to even get. Because we've lived this through Gears. We've lived this through Saga. Blade seemed like it was breaking the cycle with it, but ironically enough, it's going back in.
It went back, yeah. It's one of those things that I see with actually quite a few indie games and things like that recently too. It's just like it's kind of starting to suffer more from its own obsession with its own meta commentary. Like if I feel like that is one of the main things that I'm just like, yeah, this game is better when it's trying to be its own thing than whenever it's trying to make a itself as a franchise.
The Xenoblade cinematic universe.
Well, and that's why I'm very weary about this franchise moving forward, because I don't know what this next game is going to be. I don't know because it's like, I almost feel like this next game is in a no-win situation. If they do like a Xenoblade Cross, you're gonna have a bunch of people upset that they didn't deliver on Future Redeemed. If they do continue to do whatever the fuck it seems like they're setting up, who knows if it's gonna be good?
Yeah.
If they mess it up, people are gonna be beyond upset about that too, and it's just like, I don't know.
I think
my major hope is that this wrap up, quote unquote, is like a jumping off point for a new thread completely. But,
exactly.
You know,
that's what I'm.
We'll see. And this is where I'm going to get to my more personal tangent with this game. This game is supposed to be the end, right? It's supposed to be the end. It's supposed to tie things up. I don't personally think it tied things up in the best way, but whatever. It's supposed to tie things up. And I guess for me, if this really is the end, it also feels like it's almost like the end of my own personal journey through Blade. So, like, when we got to see Yesterday and Future Redeemed, I had a moment where I was like, wait, I'm back in Colony 9. It felt like I was kind of looking back on my life through Xenoblade.
Mm-hmm.
Like, going back to where I was when I played the first game, the kind of emotional wreck that I was back then.
Yeah.
And then seeing the person I am now. And it kind of put me in this really introspective mood. And it's like, this game is wrapping up. That part of my life, that arc, is also wrapping up too. And now we're opening the doors to something new. So it felt interesting. It was really interesting playing that and just having that moment. And I actually really like that about
sounds bittersweet, that moment.
It's very bittersweet.
Yeah.
Like,
especially when they hit through with that music.
Yeah, it's incredibly bittersweet, and a lot of my feelings about just kind of being fed up with this, it made me for a while think maybe I am just maybe I've got what I needed out of this franchise. This does not mean I'm leaving the show. No, don't think it is that.
God.
But maybe.
Well, I mean, we're talking Blade. We have others.
Yes, but maybe it's.
I can't do this alone.
It had me thinking for a while that maybe these games are no longer being made for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when I started thinking that helped me kind of look at the game in a different light and really try to appreciate it on its own terms and what this game could represent for other people. And I think
that's right, Justin. It's now being made for me.
Yeah, unironically, actually. Like, you want the crazy MCU of Xeno, and you might get that, and I think that's great, right? But I hope I'm really curious to see what the future holds for this game, right?
Still got you. Also, now we're going into the phase going forward. Any other entries will make this podcast true art because now Justin will suffer for it.
Probably.
Lads and Lassie, I am very sorry, but I need to bow out.
No, it's a good time to wrap up.
I have a store to get to, and they close at 11, and it is now 10:07 p.m.
All right. Well, thanks for joining. But this is a perfect time to wrap up in general.
Yeah.
Jen, did you want to say more before we totally do that? Because you really didn't
did not get a chance to talk.
I hated it. No.
Yeah, okay, cool.
The end. I hated it. The end. No.
This franchise.
No, it's but yeah.
And you can quote me on that.
But yeah, but thanks again for joining, Anthony.
Yeah, no problem. Real quick, I know we do the outro thing, so what's good new in my life? I bought a house, and that's taken up basically my entire summer, from like starting looking in May to closing in June to moving in to now.
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations.
The last 4 months of my life have been a blur, and I'm not exaggerating. I genuinely, this has been like the fastest, third of a year of my life. And homeownership is fun. If I'm just going to put it out there. I know that the economy is terrible right now. I know things are bad. Don't give up. Keep trying. I certainly thought that it was never going to happen for me and my wife, but we got there. And
I'm still allowed to visit, right?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Now that Anthony lives in a house, of course not. I'm kidding.
But just don't give up. It's, until you die, it is never too late. So, pursue those dreams.
My home is this mausoleum.
Right now, it's a museum of boxes. I'm working on fixing them. Anyway, good night, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.
Good night, Ed.
Good night.
And thank you for having me and listening to my overly enthusiastic.
It was a long time coming, so I was glad to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm very happy to have finally been able to share them, and thanks for that.
Mm-hmm.
It meant a lot that you guys waited for me to do this, and I'm sorry it took so long.
You're fine.
No,
you're fine.
Better.
Bye for now.
Bye.
But yeah, going back to I can kind of just wrap up what I'm saying too.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think Blade 3 represents, for me personally, it represents both the end of just Blade and just the end of that chapter of my life. This 12 year was it 12 year chapter of me growing with this franchise and all the things I've learned from this franchise and the ways I've grown personally. And I think that's kind of neat that this game, Xenoblade 3 in general, kind of gave me that opportunity to look back on myself, which it feels like it's also doing that too. It's looking back on itself. It's looking back on Xenoblade, where they've come, and giving us a potential glimpse of the future. And the future can be exciting, right? A lot of people are excited at the prospects of future Redeemed, and the future can be scary as well, much like many of the themes of Xenoblade 3. But it's kind of just up to us to just go for the future and see what happens.
I will say, tonally, if they go forward with the direction tonally kind of more akin to what they did in 3, I think I'd be on board with that. Something about like just that more somber, introspective kind of style. I do like that. You know, definitely takes me back a little bit to some of the Xenosaga stuff in a way.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
Anyways, you go ahead, Tyler.
I was gonna say it reminds me of the Xenosaga stuff, but at least Xenoblade has a future and Xenosaga doesn't. No, that's terrible.
No, I'm kidding.
No, I'm gonna make myself feel bad.
I'm not gonna make that tease. I'm not even. I mean, like that's
no.
That is too. That's not trendy enough for me. I can't do it.
I just hurt myself. That's fine.
But
yeah.
Dang.
I mean, I guess I'm a little mixed on the game myself. I was a little disappointed, but there's some really good aspects of the game that I like as well. Like, I mean, we kind of already glossed over it, but like the characters and their relationships with each other, and then there's some other stuff that I'm like, it almost feels like I'm nitpicking, because like
that's what we're doing for.
Because I mean, I'm kind of also indifferent about the ending, because I don't, but it might be just me, because I don't like endings where like it like time travels back to a certain point, because then it feels like all that stuff that happened through the game feels like
doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, with the Mio playing her flute and Noah hearing it, it shows that it does in a way matter, but all that other stuff that happened in the game felt like,
oh yeah, like the complete
undoing of everything.
You know,
yeah.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that is actually a thing that kind of bothers me, is like those stories where everything is just undone.
Yes,
and not in a way where, and like I think it does make a little bit of a difference in a way where, but the character remembers and learned a lesson from it, as opposed to like this where it's like no one fucking remembers shit.
Exactly.
And I'm like, I fucking hate that because you might as well have just been like, but it was all a dream. And I'm like, no.
Exactly.
That's a cop.
I hate that plot device. I mean, I love the imagery at the end with them running towards each other. I like that imagery, but I just hated that plot device so much.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that was I fully agree. Okay, good.
I thought people would say otherwise, but I just
no. You articulated it better than I thought of at the time, for sure.
Okay, yeah, that's one thing that bothered me, and another thing. Oh God, let me just say all the things I hate.
Nothing mattered.
Oh, exactly. But yeah, the other thing that this one maybe not as bad, but I didn't like how characters died, but then 5 minutes later, they're back. I mean, they're technically not the same person. They don't have the same memories, but it also kind of, I don't know, kind of lessens the impact of them dying. Like the Kamaravi and Ethel fight, which was...
That was a little weird.
It was intense, but then they brought them back and then had this weird relationship with Kamaravi and Ethel. I don't know. I mean, it was...
It didn't do much for me either.
One could argue that's the plot. Like, you die, and for those people who remember that character, yeah, they are dead. But if you're that character and you died, you aren't the same person.
Okay, that's interesting. I kind of wish they had, I don't know, delved...
Oh, they didn't explain it that way.
Yeah, right. It's an interesting concept. And I kind of wish...
I think the Blade concept in 2 was a little more interesting in the way they played it, whereas they're immortal, but their memory resets, so they have to find ways to deal with that. I think that was a more interesting take on what they were kind of trying to do.
Okay, there's a better version
of
that.
This one, the only people who knew that they get resurrected were, the Mobius and the Queens.
Yeah, so it made it feel a lot more like a moot point in this one, I think.
Yes. But then you'd have character deaths, because Mio remembers Miyabi a lot, but then when Miyabi comes back, she's just kind of there. Kind of with Mwamba, he comes back and it's oh hey, he's back, but it's we don't care. I don't know.
But at that point they knew about this.
Yeah, just lessen the impact.
Just being devil's advocate.
No, I get you.
No, that's fine.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah,
actually.
It just I don't know. For me, it lessened the impact of character deaths. And
I think there was a lot of things in this game, just little things like that, where a lot of impacts were lessened just due to the nature of how they handled that stuff. True. And it was okay. I mean, in a sense, I'm glad they're back, but also you did nothing with them to the point that I forgot that Mwamba even came back. Almost.
Exactly. My point exactly. But yeah, I mean, I do kind of want to give this game another shot. I probably should have done New Game Plus, because I watched the opening cutscene earlier today, and
I feel like I eventually will, but I'm just not ready.
Same. I've got so many games right now that it's
yeah.
But yeah, I watched the opening cutscene to Xenoblade 3, the base game, earlier, and it really throws you into it, and I did like how it's just, the opening's so intense and also very sad, and yeah, it's
that setup is amazing.
It's amazing. But yeah, also, but I did kind of like Xenoblade 3 Future Redeemed more a little bit in some regards, because I mean, I liked how they brought back the community board, but it was actually kind of better than Torna, or at least it wasn't as forced as Torna was.
Yeah, it was much more reasonable.
Yes, I kind of like the exploration and collectopedia kind of the best in Future Redeemed. I liked a lot of the gameplay of Future Redeemed a lot. Also, I mean, it was cool to see Shulk and Rex again, but as far as new characters, I did like A lot. They were pretty cool.
Yeah. Matthew and A just made a great duo.
They did. Yes.
They really bounced off of each other very well.
Mm-hmm. I like Niall as well. I wish she technically was more playable than she was, because we can beat the game, but they put her in that 7th slot. It's like, we play her at some point, but that's a minor thing. Though, I was gonna say I did like Alvis coming back, but I feel like there wasn't enough of him in that DLC almost. But I don't know. I almost didn't understand him being a villain and splitting himself. But that's me. I might have to look in, or I don't know.
It's not the clearest thing.
Unclear.
But it's also like a very
is he also?
It's like he had a personality. He had a more humanoid personality side that split off from his more cold, logical computer side, and that was like supposed to be the main split there, from what I understand.
Right. And so was he also connected to Origin, or is that mostly just Zed? Or
I'm trying to remember the specifics of it. I think I thought I was thinking that it was that it was like pretty much implied that he was like had to do with the creation of Origin at very least. Mm-hmm. But Zed is like I see Zed as more of like an arbiter of Origin.
Oh, okay.
I guess.
Oh, okay.
Rather than like Zed was not a creator of Origin; he was created for Origin, more so.
Okay, I see. That makes sense.
Yeah, like that's the way I remember taking that in, but I might be misremembering or missing a few details here. It's been a little bit since I looked into that.
Same.
It's almost like he's maybe policing isn't the right word, but like he's the manager now, and like the Aegis, the Aegises had more to do with the creation of Origin itself, kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Especially Alvis, being Ontos and all.
Yeah.
But there's a few details about that I forget, so I might don't totally quote me on that.
No,
that's just what
I feel
vaguely remember.
It's definitely something I need to look at.
I'm not always in the mood to get into weeds with that particular part of the lore, especially given how sometimes the explanation for Origin's bullshit is just Origin just felt like it. And it's like, yeah, why are Shulk and Rex back? Origin just felt like it. Yeah. Like, is what it... That may not be completely true. Somebody might have a really good explanation for why that was chosen, who was chosen, why to come back, when, and how. But I just am so used to be like, nobody seems to have a clear explanation for that they've like picked up on. And maybe one day whenever I'm for some lore diving, I'll go in and figure out some more stuff about what people's thoughts on that are. But
yeah,
and feel free to correct us in the comments.
Exactly. If you and I mean,
so we can call you out, you fucking nerd.
No,
we're not gonna do that.
I know, Justin. You mentioned like if you have like videos of deep dives or something you want to suggest, I can also put those in the comments, and then maybe I could also.
Please for some of us who don't like reading.
And listeners, if you have any favorite like deep dive videos, let us know.
Believe me, there are times in which I'm willing to like nerd lore stuff like this about it, and I love lore. I do. Like
lore, but some of us need
I'm
some
just
help.
tired. I don't really feel like engaging. With
That's true. I am tired a lot.
That's all I'm getting at. So like I'm gonna forget.
I took a nap today, so I understand.
I did too.
But yeah, I have mixed feeling about Xenoblade 3, but I also need to, I don't know, give it another chance. And then, of course, I mean, I also freaked out during the cutscene that had like Xenosaga references and whatnot. But after calming down, it's
Panic at the Xeno.
Panic at the Xeno. But But yeah, I'm trying to think. There was one other thing I was thinking of, but now it's escaped me. I should have prepared better.
Probably should have had another.
Nah, it's okay.
Oh, I mean, I
Second nap.
I should have, but so I liked Ouroboros was neat, but I still kind of wanted giant robots instead.
I mean, they definitely delivered in some ways. In the second, you know what? You just reminded me of something I think I vaguely brought up, but forgot to bring up completely. There was a point on Ouroboros I meant to make, especially not really the Mobius. Really, is what I'm talking about. So, yeah, like Anthony had said earlier in the cast, I was also, I believe Anthony said this. I was pretty disappointed with the portrayal of a lot of the Mobius in this game.
Yep.
I've mentioned this before with another game series that I feel at times. So the Mobius reminded me a little bit of like a Tales of game. Because like I remember like with Tales of Symphonia playing through it, and I was like, wow, this story is like doing some really dark stuff, but then I get to the villains and they're like Saturday morning cartoon shit, and I'm like feeling a complete disconnect here. And I felt the same way with Mobius. Like the gravity of the situation versus the portrayal of this villain is not doing it for me. And I mean, given maybe not all the time, but a lot of the time, they just felt very paper thin. Villain wise.
They really were. And you just go through so many of them, and some of them only show up in side quests, and it's like, and they're gone. It's
like, who are you again?
Lessens it, yeah.
It's like you didn't have to have every single letter of the alphabet, but
but they did. We must have a Mobius for every ending to near it.
We're getting like at the 3-hour mark, so we should probably wrap things up. Yeah. But yeah,
I just didn't want to like go with you not getting a chance to say something.
I appreciate that. Like, I mean, it's complicated, and I definitely
literally for all of us.
I definitely want to give it another chance, though. But I think I still love Xenoblade 2 is also one of my favorites for multiple reasons. But I know each of us has like a kind of a different Xenoblade that we kind of gravitate to, or Xeno game in general that we kind of gravitate to. So that's okay. Yeah. All right. Oh well, thanks for joining. That was. We still have a lot of thoughts on Xenoblade 3 after 2 years. That's a good thing.
Just had all this time to sit in our brains.
A lot of marinating. Okay. If you want, let's go around and I know you're getting tired, B. Would you like to say what you're up to or what you're playing and whatnot?
Sure. As Justin indicated, he's going to Otakuthon. I am also going to Otakuthon next week. Super excited. Never been. Should be good. Been busy in personal life doing stuff. Doing a lot more like board games, so I'm getting really into different kinds of board games. Right now, if I can name drop one, I have 3 favorites right now. One is called The Game. It's a card-based game where you are working with a partner or a small group, and you have to get from 2 to 90 or 90 to 2, but you don't know what your other opponent holds. It's very much a cooperative game. The other one's called Dwarf Romantic. It did win Board Game of the Year, I believe, last year, and it's kind of like Cascadia. We have to complete missions by building a map. Again, another cooperative game. And a third one is I think it's called, oh my gosh, I can't remember. It's a pilot game. It's a cooperative game. It just won Board Game of the Year this year. you are a pilot and a co-pilot, and you try to successfully land a plane. So I'm right now diving into board games.
Cool.
Thanks Square for putting Kingdom Hearts on a Steam Deck. That is also that I've been diving into badly, quite badly. I'm going through that, and creative-wise, I've been playing with a lot of 3D printing stuff. Been playing with a new material as of this week where you can kind of eliminate print lines. So I'm doing a lot of creativity stuff with that too. So I'm just a busy person in general. That's
I was going to ask, you cosplaying at a Talkathon?
Yeah, just because I am traveling by train, I have 3 cosplays, at least what I'm calling easy cosplays in the works.
Mm-hmm.
I have the Blue Spirit from Avatar, 3D printed the mask, and retractable swords.
Cool.
I have a Legend of Zelda inspired kimono, and I printed a really killer Majora's Mask headpiece for that.
Cool.
And the third one is, again, very simple, Cyclops. I have a communicator badge I 3D printed with multiple colors, and a visor that right now, as we speak, I have a visor made. However, this is personal life stuff. My new boyfriend is also making one and possibly rigging it up with electronics. So I might be bringing that one, or the other one I made. Stay tuned. I don't know yet.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice. How about you, Nick? I know it'll be a little similar.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. I'm just kidding. I'm also actually this year. But I have 2 cosplays in the works. One is extremely simple, but I do have to do a few things left on it. The other is extremely complicated, but it is nigh finished, although there is a lot more to do than there should be for there being, 4 days left until I go there, and all 4 of them being work days. But we'll figure it out.
You've got this.
Doing my best.
The offer's always open to 3D print something.
Most of unfortunately on that point, so there's that. Well, actually less fortunately because less than unfortunate because the cloth stuff, what I have left can be knocked out fairly fast for the most part. I feel like the part where I'm going to run into the issue is the foam stuff that I have a lot left to kind of do. Well, it's mostly just one thing, but I have to do a lot of them. I only have 1 out of 11 that I'm fully made that I'm supposed to do. So. But luckily, despite working tomorrow, I should have a fair amount of downtime, and I plan to just do that on some of it. That tomorrow and on Sunday, so there's that. But yeah, no, I'm liking the progress I have. I just wish I were a little further in some ways. It's always like that. But yeah, I'm working on that. I've really not done a lot else lately, not been playing many games or anything like that. Mostly just been I get distracted enough without all that. So just mostly my life has been work, cosplay, and volunteer work. So I've been between sewing stuff, crafting stuff, making PowerPoints, I guess. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Not much time for gaming right now.
Well, good luck. You're almost
through it. I'm almost through it. I've got this entire... I really need to probably... I know it's running close to my bedtime tonight, but I really want to sew this hat together. Get this thing... Well, because it's just it's a weird hat, and I want to get it done. So that might happen. we'll see how that goes.
Mm.
But yeah, we're doing that.
I'm so excited to meet you two, by the way.
Yeah, same.
Yes,
I'm very excited for next week, but I'm also just, I got so much to do. I'll be just so relieved whenever I get all this done. And the main part of it is I've got a part to sew for the interior of my cape that requires the foam parts first, and so there's parts I need to... Well, there's parts I need to cut out of it before I sew it in.
Yeah.
So I can put the foam parts in, and I'm just like, I could sew this in and the cape would mostly be done, but then the foam part, I've got a lot of those left to do. And what if they don't go in right? Like things like I'm worried about, what if this screws up and I did this part too early? I'm like prohibited from putting this in until I get these done. So then on the hat, I'm just like, the only thing about it that's like messing me up is some of these, like I've got some faux leather parts, some like pleather that I'm just like, how do I finish the ends where they look neat and don't look like garbage? That's always a little bit of a struggle, but other than that, we're pretty good.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
All right, how about you, Justin?
So I've been playing a few games. I know we've been playing Megaton Musashi, and
so much fun.
Yeah, the three of us finished it. So that's been a mostly pleasant experience. I'd recommend the game. Mm-hmm. I've also been playing Witch Spring R on the side, and I am loving that game. It is a treat. I was expecting it to just be kind of okay, but honestly, this game is a solid time. The mechanics are really good. The battle system is great. It really is. The story is actually getting really interesting right now, too. They're taking it in some places I did not expect it to go. So, check out Witch Spring. It's actually kind of different from Atelier. It looks like an Atelier game, but it is on Steam. It's coming to Switch in about a month or two. It's gonna get a nice big box limited edition as well. So, yeah, check that game out. I'm also playing Mario RPG as well. I just started playing that tonight because
time.
So I borrowed a copy from my local library.
And so I need to get around to playing it myself.
It's delightful.
So I gotta finish this game before it's due.
You'll be fine. I finished it in a weekend. You'll be fine.
Can you not? Some libraries let you, like, if you go back with it, you can extend like the rental.
Yeah, I think I get like one extension for games. It's a lot less than I get from manga there, but yeah, I want to play through this. My library is. I'm going to say this, guys. I've been saying this a lot. Check out your local libraries if you want games. Some of them are starting to stock games now, and they got like recent stuff. Like my library has FF7 Rebirth in their system.
I actually asked my brother because he was at the library recently if ours did, and we don't.
Aww.
But I also live in a place that is not like great for, so
Yeah, like mine had Princess Peach Showtime there. I know they even had a couple PlayStation Vita games at my library, which is kind of wild. They have Vita, they got some 3DS games. I know they had like Fire Emblem Awakening there. I think they have Majora's Mask 3DS as well. They got some Wii U games. So check out your libraries. You might find some interesting stuff there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like Arthur Reed said, having fun isn't hard if you've got a library card.
Yeah? Nerd.
You didn't watch Arthur growing up?
No, I'm too old for Arthur.
Fuck is wrong with you?
No. You're not that much older than us.
You're not that much older. I have a friend in Canada that worked on Arthur.
Okay.
Oh, that's cool.
Pretty sick. Yeah.
Let's see. Anything else, Justin?
No, that's about it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I beat Megaton Musashi. It was great. Highly recommend. Otherwise, this is a weird one, but I've been playing Atelier Nelki, which was their like anniversary title from 2019. But yeah, I've been playing Nelki, and it's weird because it's not a typical Atelier game where it's mostly a city management sim. And yeah, it's like strangely addictive because I guess I like seeing the numbers go up, but
ActRaiser shit.
Yeah, it's an interesting game. Like the story's ass, but it's like
what?
I mean, it's a anniversary title where it throws in characters from all the other different games. So they have a really weird plot where it's like, oh, we all came to this world and we're gonna try to figure out how to get out of go back to our home worlds. But then
it's one of those.
Yeah, but then characters you'll get like kind of like minor characters from other Atelier games pop up and like, oh hey, I wanted to check things out. But I was like, but if you want to check things out, why they're trying to leave this world? Why are people still coming over here?
Why are you here?
I don't know. It's the plot's like not great, but it's for the gameplay is like strangely addictive. But you're on a calendar system, and if you don't meet a certain goal by that calendar date, it's
stuck there forever.
It's kind of game over, and you have to either reload a different save and like manage your time better, or it allows you to do a new game plus like right away, which there's some perks to it, but I don't know. I put so much time into it that I failed the recent goal, and it's like I don't want to start over at this point. But I'm gonna have to go back like to a save point or a save file that I have from like I don't know 5 hours or 10 hours ago, and it's just But
I've had like a game or two I can think of that did that to me.
Yeah, I wish it was like Persona or something where we're like, okay, you failed, but let's just like rewind time a little bit for you. But it's a fun game. It's really different from a normal Atelier game, but so it's really.
Whenever I hear the name, all I can think of is Strawberry Milky.
Yeah, it's really hard to recommend, but it's fun. It's fun. It's dumb, but I mean, it's not dumb. The management system is actually
kind of dumb.
The story's dumb. The gameplay's not.
Yeah.
It's.
I understand.
Yeah. But anyway, thanks everyone for joining me tonight, and for everyone listening. We're gonna have our is that our 6-year anniversary soon? Yeah.
This is. Aren't we going into season 7? Actually,
season 7, but
yeah, it'd be our 6th. Yeah,
this will be our 6th anniversary, and we'll be starting season 7. Whew.
Wow.
Yeah, time flies. We're gonna try to do something a little bit different this year. But
we are.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Oh.
Stay tuned. But yeah,
this is exciting.
But not too exciting. Don't get your hopes up too high.
I don't know what it is.
All right. Yeah. Thanks again for everyone for the discussion, and have a good night, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Save the game?
Why do you say dinosaurs suck?
I don't know. It's Anthony. It's not a food. He's going to say that.
Because I was muted.
It's Anthony. It's not a food. It sucks. It sucks. It's not Fire Emblem. It's not food. It's not.
He also did this,
Undertale.
Majora's Mask. He also said Majora's Mask was crap, but that one I'm calling his bluff.
He said that? Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I believe it.
I believe it
Yeah,
too.
Okay, I believe you.
He's trolling. I'm gonna try not to. Last episode, my nose was so squeaky.
I'm gonna punch your. If you punch me, B, I'll punch your bruised thumb. There we go.
I'm not gonna punch anyone if I don't have
Punch
to.
my squeaky nose.
You shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
Punch your pillow.
Yeah.
I got all the punching and kicking out. I'm good.
You've been working on your roundhouse kicks. You should work on your comebacks. I'm just kidding.
Dang. Okay. You should punch him for that.
Anthony, I can hear you shitting.
No.
I'm the girl with the gall.
I guess listeners have probably gotten a kind of an idea of what we feel about some of... Oh, sorry, what was that?
Oh, that might have been me opening a package, sorry.
Oh, sound like you're...
Yeah, I thought you're like...
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that picked up on the mic like that. I thought it was further away.
Oh, that's okay. Anyway, yeah. So...
I'm the girl with the gall.
It's not exactly a typical Atelier game. Oh, I hear some rustling in the background.
Yeah, my bad. I'm trying to get this package back in.
Okay.
I just grabbed myself a taro mochi, and I was like, "Whoa, get back in the package."
I'm the girl with the gall.
Okay, good job.